Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we've got a topic where we're going to address something that needs to be addressed. The question of the night, again, the question of the night is, do we owe allegiance to Africa? Did Africa send reinforcements to the United States during the transatlantic slave trade? You know, that's an homage to our dear brother, our fallen brother, Paul Mooney. He said, y'all didn't send nobody to save us. Is there any evidence that they sent anybody to save us? I know a little bit about, you know, the American slave trade. I'm from Alabama. You know, we got hit with that shit as hard as anybody. Maybe not as hard as Mississippi, but close enough. And I don't recall, excuse me, let me step outside of education for a minute. I don't recall not now tale of an African boat coming to fight a slave master. I don't remember that. But what I did notice in Accra, no, I'm sorry, not Accra, Cape Coast in Ghana, there were seemingly a lot of Africans who were complicit with the slave trade. I've said this before. We're going to learn a little bit today, and it's going to piss all of you off. Our scholarship comes from Dr. Snyder. Can I say Dr. Snide-I? It's the husband and wife. Snyder's plural in their volume, Slavery in America, from Colonial Times to the Civil War. They say some different things in here that you never heard before. What do they say? They said in Africa, quote, the slaver, you know, the white dude, had to depend on Africans at every turn. Uh-oh. Yep. The white man couldn't do it by himself. That's what I learned face to face, and I want to say Accra, but it was Cape Coast. Dr. Snyder's say when he arrived with his trading goods, he did not dare leave them unguarded on the beach. He had to hire an African captain of the sand to watch over them till he can hire Africans to transport them inside the fort. So those big bad white men used to hire Africans, you know, from Mother Africa to watch us like we were some freight. And I say us because my dad's from that. I linked my dad to the transatlantic slave trade. Now, not all foundational Black Americans are linked to the slave trade. A lot of us, like my mom's side of the family, have been here forever. We'll get to that in another volume. Matter of fact, I'm writing scholarship on that right now. But my daddy, his family is linked to that 1619 issue. My dad's from Virginia, or like they say in the Po areas, Virginia. He's from Virginia. And in Virginia, you had a good group of enslaved Africans, which I've linked that to. Well, Dr. Snyder says when he bought slaves, he being the white man, right? He had to employ a captain of the slaves. Guess what the captain of slaves was? You guessed it. 5 stars in African. To get rid of the cargo, to help to get them to the beach. Oh, hold on, I missed my space. He had to get them to the beach, yes. Then he had to house them somewhere until he could complete his cargo. He learned that if he loaded immediately the slaves he first bought, he ran the risk of having them jump overboard. If he kept them in chains too long, many of them inconveniently sickened and died. Notice that Dr. Snyder's said inconvenient. Oh, damn, they died, Billy. What type of mindset is this? Dr. Snyder's further say, so he arranged to send his early purchases to the barracoons, was this a holding pen, in the forts, to be guarded and fed by Africans under the captain of the trunk. You know what? These are the people I saw when I was in Ghana. Yeah. I saw descendants of the captain of the slaves, descendants of the captain of the trunk, descendants of the captain of the, what I leave out? This shit's pissing me off as I read it.
Sand.
Captain of the sand. That's how you're dealing with. Talking my brother, hello brother from another mother. I'm like, fuck you, dude. You sold me. Punk. Dr. Snyder's further say if he did not find enough slaves for sale on the coast, he might have to entrust trading goods to Africans who would make excursions inland to buy slaves for him. That's some of that Queen and Zinga shit right there. No, or who was it? What's her name? Awani?
Madam Tiffany.
Madam. Yeah, Madame Tenabu, who tried to pretend like she didn't know. I thought I was giving them a job. No, the fuck you didn't. You knew what you was doing. Lastly, he said when he finally completed his purchase of slaves and the supplies to maintain them and his crew were on the way home, he had to hire canoes manned by, what's the magic word, ladies and gentlemen? Africans. There it is. To transport them all to his ship. He had to negotiate prices and rely on local judgment as to when the tides and weather permitted loading, even if these canoemen upset their rafts and lost his goods. The captain dare not reproach them for fear of reprisals. Let's do one more paragraph. Meanwhile, his employers at home were pressuring him to buy only choice slaves from preferred areas. That's us. Hello, Dr. Snyder said that shit. As Dr. Chancellor Williams said, the slaves that the Portuguese wanted were descendants of the Kemites. Yes, yes, yes. That's how America got built, ladies and gentlemen, because the Portuguese and the Dutch, they weren't looking for African slaves. They were looking for descendants of Kemetic people. My granddaddy, Dr. Chancellor Williams, called them the Bouchon people. That's how we get Benjamin Banneker over here building Washington, D.C., and he ain't went to nobody's school. They ain't telling you the whole story. But back to the point. Do FBAs, excuse me, owe allegiance to Africa? Did Africa send reinforcements to the U.S.? What you think, Wani?
Nope. That's it. The room's over.
Have a good night.
So asking if why didn't they send a ship to rescue us shows a fundamental misunderstanding of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. This was a position that a lot of us took, and we just pretended that Africans had nothing to do with it, that the white boy just had a big butterfly net and ran all up and down the coast, inland, up into mountains, and all of these places, getting all these different people. It was impossible for them to penetrate Central Africa like that and gather up anybody. So this was an operation. It was a transatlantic slave trade, and it had nothing to do with Africans standing around not knowing what was going on. In fact, uh, this tribe is not very well known, but a tribe on the West Coast allowed them to build those castles. Those castles were built by Africans, and they are in a style very similar to North African style. So we know who built them, and they had permission to build them. They had a deal with Africans. So they definitely had something, and they did have transportation. Some people said, oh, they didn't know where we went. They didn't have transportation. Sure, they did. Because they sent over a woman named Finda Lawrence, and she was from Africa, and she came over, changed her name, and started selling human beings in America as an African. So they knew where we were, and they weren't interested in saving anyone. They sold us a lot of times. They viewed us as enemies. So they didn't even, because I was trying to understand why they would sell 40 human beings for a broken umbrella. Okay, because everyone knows the price of a human worker or an ox or any other domesticated animal, which is how we were being treated. They had to know the price. You can't be that stupid. So, a lot of times they just wanted to get rid of people that they had conflicts with. But uh, the strange part about it was that a lot of the people were children. So, how are you this mad at nursing infants, women, and children? They say these are their enemies that they were trying to get rid of. Maybe they were the wives and children of the
Hey,
enemies.
Yeah, hey, Nikki, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. What happened?
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Go figure.
Can you hear us?
If anybody can hear me, give me a thumbs up. That's so weird. Wani, I can't hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Hey, Nikki, say something.
Oh wait.
Something. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh
I
wow,
can
it's
hear you.
me. I can't. Wow, I can't hear anybody talk. Isn't
Oh,
that a
my goodness.
bitch?
You can't.
Ugh.
I think you can leave for you can leave for
Here we go again.
a few seconds and come back.
Hmm.
Why don't here, Wani? Why don't you and I just we're just gonna drop down and then come back up.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
All right.
Oh, never mind. This is going to be too confusing. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but when
Hey,
Yeah.
Wani, I brought you back up. Say
Hello.
something.
hello.
It's not you. It's me. I can't. They
Okay.
fucking with my space.
Okay. So just a minute.
Um, I'm gonna attempt to leave and come back. So y'all hold tight.
I just told him in the chat. Just a minute.
Hello.
He's got to come back right away. Now, I did tell him this in the chat.
Okay. How does?
So, so let's
Um,
just stay up here to try to keep the space. Because he was supposed to come
okay.
right back because this whole space is about to drop. Because I was trying to say each of us will go down one at a time and then come back up. And I think it was, yeah, but he didn't. So he's going to be gone too long and then the space is going to drop because he's supposed to come right back.
Mm, do you think he can't get back in?
If he would have been looking at the chat, and I see him coming back, but he's got to look at the chats when we're talking.
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Hello. No, it says you're having connection issues. Yes, I can,
I'm
but
not. It's the weirdest thing ever. I'm not having. I have full bars.
but I
Weird.
mean, when it says that, it's going to drop at some point.
Professor, you have to start looking at the chat while because we're on the stage and I'm saying this in front of everybody, but you have to start looking at the chat
Okay.
when we're on stage, Professor.
Roger that.
Okay.
Now, what were we talking about? Okay, so when people ask these questions, it shows that they're blinded by their refusal to admit that Africans had something to do with the transatlantic slave trade. Um, when people ask and say statements like, "Oh, we're just a boat stop away," uh, Puerto Ricans said, "We're just a boat stop away." No, we're not. No, we're not. That's why these people sound like they're, you know, 5 years old. We are not a boat stop away. These people are heavily mixed with Spanish people. We are mixed with English people. That's fundamental thing number one. Number two, we're mixed with indigenous people in this area, and they're mixed with indigenous people in their area. That's a major difference. We've been separated from these people for a long time, and we have developed different cultures. That's a difference right there. We come from different groups of Africans. We have different mixes of Africans. So some of these places will have certain types of Africans that are highlighted. over what we have. And like I said, if you show our DNA profile to somebody, they're going to immediately say, oh, that person's from the United States of America. That's a Black American. And they're going to know it's not a Jamaican. They have different admixtures. Um, Again, we already know people that are Spanish, they have completely different setup. So they want to just keep saying that so they can crowbar themselves in. See, all they have to do is just say that they have some African descent, and then a fat Joe is sitting up on you. He's all propped up on your stuff, and then he can jump out and be a white man, like his profile said. Somebody showed how he identified. He identifies as white, but he's calling us racist broke asses. Wait, why am I talking about that?
Um, well, I agree with it. I wanted to add on with a picture, believe it or not, which is what I was looking for when the space crashed earlier. Um, you said we came from different places, right, Wani?
Well, I said that we're not just a boat stop away. I'll put it like that. The way
Okay.
that they're saying it, it's like a boat left from West Africa, it went over to Haiti, and then it dropped us off at another place. And so we're all the same people. But they don't understand how the the reason that you are a Haitian is not because you got dropped off in Haiti. Okay, so if a boat leaves West Africa and goes to Haiti, are you a Haitian now? No. That would
Well,
mean that I'm every nationality on earth. Just because you go there doesn't mean that you're that person. So let's put it this way. If a boat left West Africa and went to Haiti, stopped there and dumped off some people, they're not Haitians. They're Africans that just went to Haiti. If that same group of people, if they take some of them and season them and break them because they want them to be enslaved in North America, and they want to go further to what is now the United States, if they do that, we're still not Haitians. So if we leave Haiti after that process of being broken, we're not Haitians. We're just people that came from an African slave ship up to North America and would later blend in with all of the things going on in North America if you want to take that route. Now, if you take the other route of people that were already here, clearly those people are not. They have nothing to do with Haiti. They don't have anything to do with some Africans that came from West Africa. They don't have anything to do with that. We have too many things being mixed in with us for us to be them. Just like a lot of Jamaican people have Chinese last names. That's something that their island is doing. They have Chinese people on there and Indian people on there that they've admixed with. We don't have any Kamalas over here. We didn't heavily admix with Indian people. They weren't here. We have specific things. We have specific events. We had the Manila men who were hanging around out in Louisiana. So some people from Louisiana might look at their DNA and they might say, why does it say this on it? Who is this Filipino person? Where did he come from? Well, these men were called Manila men. They were fishermen and they married some of the women, white and black. They were Roman Catholics. They married some local women in Louisiana. So they have a very particular admixture based on activities in America. We don't have the same DNA profiles as these other people. We even have different white people. So many people, so many Black Americans were in triracial isolates with Northern Europeans, not English. So even though we have this English admixture from being on plantations, those that weren't on plantations may have a whole lot of Swedish admixture, may have Norwegian or Finnish. They were here. And so that's the difference. You don't have a bunch of Northern Europeans running around the islands. They weren't over there. Okay. And that's why those people have the mixes that they have. And I don't know why they need to say we all have the same mix. Well, I do know why. Because if we delineate, if we say, no, this is us, this is our mix, these are the things we've come up with, it dramatically takes away from their um, bragging rights. Because even though we don't know it, I have seen Caribbeans bragging about our music to white people. I'm like, what do you have to do with it? They really use that as a brag. And if we delineate, they're going to be looking stupid when somebody white says something and they try to claim that as their music. They're going to be looking real crazy out here.
Yeah, Wani, I'm gonna take that a step further and actually a step backwards. You're absolutely right, but there's a step before what you said. The step is, if you look at the picture I put in the jumbotron, that's me at Cape Coast in Ghana. No, I say Cape Coast. I was at Elmina. So my foot is touching Elmina Castle, where they sold slaves. The enslaved Africans, excuse me, the enslaved Africans that Wani was talking about. So where my foot, the gold Nike is touching, is where Jamaicans, Caribbeans, um, people in Dominican Republic, Cuba, so on and so forth. That's where they came from. I want y'all to hear me real clearly, ladies and gentlemen, because this shit ain't written in a book yet. Um, if you look behind my head, you see another castle up on the hill, do you not? That's called Cape Coast. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where American enslaved Africans came from. So the question arises, why in the hell were they separating us in Africa? Y'all want to know why? Drum roll. They were separating us because the this enslaved African people who would go to America were descendants of the Bouchon. We were descendants of the fucking Egyptians. Nobody talks about that. So before we even left, now that's according to Dr. Chancellor Williams. Before we left the west coast of Africa, we were separated into different groups. Yep,
So
there it is.
that's so what I was trying to say, and I know that it's basically because people don't like to acknowledge the admixture, which I didn't acknowledge it for a long time myself, but it became very necessary to acknowledge it as part of the delineation. That's why this whole thing came up. Other than that, I would just keep pretending like there was no admixture and there were no Europeans skeletons in the closet, but there are in the 1800s. They are the missing people in your family, and people have Native Americans too. They have missing Native American grandmothers or great grandmothers in this case. These things happen in the 1800s. Maybe a Native American woman hooked up with a black man, had a child, and then boned out. So she's not in the photo album, but her genetics are. If they show up on the maternal line, we can see what's going on. Now with black males, you can see about 40%. They said about 36 to 40% of black American males carry this European haplogroup, and they say about 60% of uh, enslaved women were raped. So all of these numbers go together. We can't see what's going on when you look at the woman's genetics. You can see the mixtures, but you can't see what went on the paternal side. So we have to look at the male side to see where these lines are coming from. Um,
No cap.
Dan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, so I'm from Ghana, and I find what Prof is saying like pretty interesting. Well, first of all, good evening to everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. Um, yeah, I'm interested in what you're saying about the Cape Coast Castle and the enslaved people being descendants of Egyptians. Can you spell the Bouchon like how they spell that?
I'm a. I'll go get Chancellor Williams' book, but I think it's B. Well, you know what? Let me get Dr. Williams'
You
book, and I'll
know,
tell you B O.
Okay, no
What?
problem. Because
I
I'm
was
I'm
just going to tell.
Why is he asking people to spell things?
Shh.
no, because I want to know about it.
Dan, so Dan, what's odd is because we had an attraction toward Egyptian, um, you know, aesthetics, right? And that's why we have Earth, Wind, and Fire. And everybody would tease us, including me. I did not like Afrocentric BS, Africanizing everything and saying that we invented things that we didn't invent, which takes away from all the thousands of tens of thousands of things that we did invent and that we are involved in. I don't like people doing that because it makes us look illegitimate and stupid. So, what we see is that we do have a direct connection to this King Ramses III and these Amarna mummies in Egypt, and it shows up in a lot of Black American males. They'll get a notification from 23andMe or Ancestry, and it'll mention people that you're directly related to, just so you'll say, hey, everybody doesn't get it, right? And some white people get stuff too. They're like, oh, you're related to Napoleon Bonaparte or whatever. Everyone doesn't get that, only a handful. But um, my first cousin got that notification. And we do have the exact haplogroup from those people. They have the haplogroup that we have. So this is not, Afrocentric babble. This is an actual fact. We have the same haplogroup as them because we have an East African haplogroup because it happened before the Bantu expansion. So even though we may have come from people that were part of the Bantu expansion, our haplogroup is older than the Bantu expansion.
What
Facts.
haplogroup are you talking about? Are you talking about
Well, let me post it up.
is it the Ramses haplogroup? Because that one
I'll show you what my cousin received. Um,
because if it's E1
it's very
B1,
common, it's not rare.
if it's E1 B18, like a lot of West Africans have that, like between
But you
Ghana and
don't but you
Nigeria,
don't have this
Cameroon.
particular it's not just the haplogroup, it's a direct connection to that person.
Yeah, a lot of people have it. I know, like most people from Ghana and Nigeria that I know who've done
Quiet
transplant.
down, you guys don't have anything good.
Oh my God. Okay. I mean, it would make sense if current West Africans didn't have that haplogroup or that, um, if they weren't descendants
Well,
of Ramses the Third.
post your haplogroup. See, you guys do a lot of gum flapping, and we do a lot of fact checking and posting of articles and books. But you guys just say, of course we're going to have this and that. Show us.
I post a lot. I
Okay,
post a
post
lot.
post
People
that.
just don't care when I do. Okay, you want me to
Are you
post
pouting
their
on the
names?
stage? You're pouting on the stage, right? I can feel it.
God.
No, no pouting on my stage.
Yes, sir. All right. I'll do that. All those sources. I'm not trying to argue, by the way. Like I'm really not.
Yeah,
Like
this is kind of argue whiny type thing. It's a good style. It's very effective.
it isn't.
And it
It really
really
isn't.
helps with the roasting because it doesn't trigger my roasting.
That is
I
crazy.
have I have a disorder that causes me to roast people.
Okay, let me check that out. Share.
Now I put it in the
So,
Jumbotron.
so Dan, you asked for the spelling.
Yeah.
Dr. Chancellor Williams says it's according to Dr. Chancellor Williams, it's B, capital B,
Mm-hmm. U.S.
Ushoongs. Bouchongs.
Bushong.
No, two O's.
Oh,
I don't know who those. I tried
okay,
to look them up
Bushong.
and I didn't get any good. results. I
Bouchon
mean, I
tribe.
didn't get any good information.
Okay, Bouchon seems to be like the Kuba tribe, basically. It's a Congolese tribe. Those weren't.
No, 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 it can't be because Dr. Williams says they were Dr. According to Dr. Williams, the Bouchons. This record will show as the Portuguese slavery spread, the Bouchons moved inland from the Atlantic, enlisting new followers as they moved or temporarily stopped. They were headed towards the Congo region,
From where?
fleeing from the whites.
Sorry, from where?
Uh, Well, not on this page, but Dr. Williams insinuates that they were running away from East Africa, like what Wani said, and the dates line up for Alexander. I hate saying Alexander the Great, but I'm identifying that fucker, Alexander the Great. When he raided, quote unquote, Egypt, the dates line up. Like certain members of Egyptian or Kemetic um, high society ran.
Hmm.
They ran west, and that's what I'm arguing, according to Dr. Chancellor Williams, that a lot of
No, I
us
understand.
are members of that we were ran, and that makes sense. That makes sense for all the vitriol that comes from West Africa,
Wait,
because
can I
according to Dr.
interrupt
Chancellor
you?
Williams, no,
Okay.
according to Dr. Williams, the West Africans didn't like the Bouchon because the Bouchon knew how to make shit. And they were refugees in West Africa making stuff, designing things, and the West Africans hated them, like, because they were jealous. And when the Portuguese came looking for the Bouchon, we want them. The West Africans were like, "Oh hell yeah, you can have them." But some of the West
And
Africans got caught up in that shit too.
and you have writings
Um,
of Portuguese people referring
um,
to those Bouchon people. Because let me be real with you.
um,
Congo is very far away from
um,
Cape Coast.
um,
So
Hold on one second. What'd you say, Wani?
uh, what does it have? Okay, hold on. I just wanted to say in the Jumbotron, I put in um the notifications that some Black Americans get.
Wow.
And what does the distance of the Congo have to do with you're talking about because of the logistics of it, Dan?
no, I'm talking about the fact that there's no people in Ghana or I read a lot
There's
about
no
like
people in
slavery.
Ghana? That's
Wait,
interesting.
no,
I
no,
thought there
listen.
were people there.
There's no people in
Is
Ghana
this
that's
an
ever been
example of
called
me making
Bouchon.
people look dumb? Because they said I make people look
Okay, okay,
dumb.
Dan, Dan, I'm sorry, I don't care. Like, I really don't care, man. You're derailing my space, man. What I do like is what Wani put. Wani put like what in law school they have a saying I really enjoyed called "recipes loquitur." The white boys say "recipes loquitur," but it means the thing speaks for itself. And this shit Wani put in the jumbotron speaks for itself. But you got to look. Look at the gentleman's face who had a DNA test. I think his name's T.L. Dixon. Zoom in on his face and look at his
He's
phenotype.
got a big head. That's my cousin. We have big heads.
But that's what exactly what I was about to say, Wani. Look at his skin color. Look at Wani's face. Look at my skin color. We're comedic. We
But
don't,
they're all
man.
different
That,
colors.
but I'm just saying we have it's a certain something in Black America, in a lot of Black Americans. It's a certain something. What I'm trying to say, Wani, I'm gonna put it to you this way, because you've been to Africa too. When you went to Africa, people knew you were American, right?
Yes.
They knew I was American. They knew everybody in my entourage was American. We were all different colors. I'm high yellow. My wife's what is she? Chocolate, light chocolate or whatever. And there are people jet black. They all knew we were American because our phenotype is different. And all I'm saying is that gentleman who's related to Ramses second, he has an American phenotype. What I thought was an American phenotype, but what Dr. Chancellor Williams insinuates is a damn Egyptian phenotype. You know who else says that? Dr. Jacob Carruthers, but that's a whole nother space for a whole nother place.
Now he's related on the one side of my family, but his mother has a bunch of Native Americans on her side. They're not on my side. His family is I'm only related to one side of his family, but that's what he got. He got that. And A lot of Black Americans are getting that. In fact, a guy, I just want to put this out here, this guy, he was considered crazy because he was walking around in Egyptian garb all over the neighborhood, and he did a DNA test and he received notification that he was of Egyptian lineage. And so they had him on the news and they were laughing. They said, you are actually from those people that you're dressed up as. They thought it was crazy that he would just be one of those clowny people that dress up in Egyptian garb and walk around. He literally received this notification. So we are related to a certain people, like I said, those mummies called the Amarna mummies, and this particular king, and probably others as they start to tell the truth about the lineage of these people. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I shared a diagram of the distribution of the haplogroup. Like, do you do you agree? Do you like what's your explanation for that?
Well, number one, who's the source of this diagram?
It's on the internet. There's many maps like that. Like it's not rare.
That's my point. That's my point exactly. I could draw something and put it on the internet and say it's official. That don't mean shit. I want to know who's the source.
Okay, what source would you agree with, or do you find to be
Very various sources, but this doesn't even have a name on it.
I could provide you the source. I'm just
And
asking you
I'm
something.
not saying it's wrong. I'm just asking who is this from?
I don't wanna like waste time on things like that. You know that the map is not
You
fake.
don't want to waste time on where the information comes from.
Okay,
Sir, I
I'll
think that's
do it.
very
Okay,
relevant.
I'll do it. I'll do it. Give me a second.
I mean, that's just standard practice. Before I say, give a quote, what do I do? According to Chancellor Williams. Well, I don't believe that's garbage. Look at Chancellor Williams' record. You know what I'm saying?
You've not told us what book that was from. Like I'm very interested into reading.
I've said it about 100 times. The destruction of black civilization. Great issues of a race from 4500 BC to 2000
Okay,
AD.
what
It's one of the
page?
most
What
fun.
page does it mention the Bouchon
Now,
people
what
being
did
in
he put
Cape
up there?
Coast?
I went to get a drink and I came back and
He
all
put
saw
up a
his paper
he,
notes.
Juan, he put up a diagram talking about haplogroup distribution that doesn't have a source on it. I mean, that's some shit a kindergartner could have drew and just threw up there and say, "Hey, this is where you're from."
And Dan, are you a kindergartner? Hello.
How did you know?
And Dan got offended when I asked him where it's from. That's not pejorative. I'm telling you where everything I get.
I'm not
So,
offended. I'm not
on
offended.
y'all, anybody on my space, tell me, have I at one time in the last year gave a quote without telling you where it came from? One time have I ever done that? No, because that's not standard practice. You're supposed to tell people where it came from so they can verify it. And sometimes shit I say is wrong, but you know where to look. I've been corrected before. Hey, I quoted Ivan Van Sertima one time, and that got me in trouble. Somebody was like, Ivan Van Sertima got debunked. I didn't know that. It's called scholarship.
Semi debunked.
Yeah, I still didn't vibe with getting debunked. I mean, getting shot down for Ivan Van Sertima because he got debunked for something that I didn't
Right.
quote. You know, but anyway. So let me ask you, Dan. I got a question for you. Do we owe allegiance to Africa? Do we?
In what sense? Like what does that mean?
Any sense on earth, any sense you can think of,
Like um
sir, any
if
sense.
okay, I'm answering. If you identify with Africa in any way, you can. If you don't,
What's identifying? I could identify as a man. What does that
yeah,
mean?
it's completely subjective. I think everybody's pretty mixed, like around the world. The
No, they're
people who
not.
No, Dan. That's not gonna work with me. You're muddy in the water. Let's stick strict to the point.
but it's true
Do
though.
we do we let me
It's
ask you the
not
second part.
really. It's not really true. Most
Yeah.
Africans, when they do their DNA, it says 99% Ghanaian. 1% Nigerian, or 99% Nigerian and 1% Ghanaian.
And what does that really mean?
In the last few hundred years.
Let me ask you
I
something. What
get
does
that
that,
we're all mixed to an extent, but we're talking about in the last hundreds of years.
Wani? I'm
You
gonna
guys are pretty mono.
ethnic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Let me share
the
my
black
own.
American is completely ethnically diverse. We're just across the
We have
board
tons
with.
of African and tons of
This
European and tons of, and like not even one type of European, but multiple. So how could we be the
this is a
same?
misconception, and I want to clarify it. And
It's
It's
not a
not. I've seen your
can
misconception.
I
DNA profiles.
have you seen
Yeah.
mine?
Not yours.
I've actually shared it
But
before,
even if
and
you,
LJ always
e-
say it.
okay, but even
So
if I look at
can I say what it
Idris
means?
Elba, his is going to say half Ghana, half Sierra Leone.
That's not true. Do you know why? Because
Yes, it
Ghana and Sierra
is.
Leone
That's
is grouped. Ghana and Sierra
oh,
Leone is
no.
grouped on 23andMe.
Dan, second part of the question. I want you to answer this as honest as you know
Yes,
how.
sir.
Did did Africa send reinforcements to the United States during the transatlantic slave trade
Yeah,
when my grandmama was getting raped on those fields?
yeah.
Where's your evidence, sir?
Do you know
Up his butt.
about the
The what?
um
What?
Virgin Islands?
What?
Come on, boy.
What?
Don't do that.
What? What?
I'm listening. I want to hear
I'm waiting.
this.
I'm waiting for her to. So there's this festival called John Canoe in the Caribbeans. I think it's also in South Carolina. And what happened was some, let's say, some militaristic people in Ghana, current like modern day Ghana, uh, fought against Germans and I think the Dutch and Danish people, I think. And some of them ended up getting shipped to the Virgin Islands. And
Hold on
they,
a minute.
hold on,
What
hold on,
in the
hold on,
hell are you concocting over there?
hold on.
I don't know what he
What
talking
did
about.
Germans have to did listen to the question? Did any raggedy ass Africans bring their raggedy asses over here to save us from us being enslaved by raggedy ass Africans?
I'm answering.
Did I say raggedy ass too much? I should mix it up.
Nah,
Did
add
any
one more.
dumbass Africans come over to help us?
And I said yes. And I was telling you
Who?
about,
What's the group?
and
You
I'm
you
telling you
said some
about.
people fought Germans and then went over to the Virgin Islands. How does that help us?
I could tell you the
How
exact.
does the Virgin, what does the Virgin Islands have to do
Jesus
with Black
Christ.
Americans?
Facts.
Isn't
Like,
okay?
why do you think we're all a
Denmark basically
chunk?
came from there.
They're
What are you talking about?
islands. They have nothing to do with us unless we buy one of them, or they're one of our territories that we
The
agree is a
Virgin
territory.
Islands, the Virgin Islands are part of the United
Let
States.
me,
Denmark
okay,
basically came from
we are
there.
really gonna start falling out right now. We're gonna start, let's, cage
Am I
fight,
lying? Am
cage
I
fight,
lying?
cage fight.
Dan is trolling. He
I am
trolling.
not. I
The
am not.
Virgin Islands has nothing to do with the United States of America unless we say that's a territory. These are
Let me,
these are
Wani,
these
let me ask
places
you a
have, they're
question.
not touching this area. If we
They don't
say
need to
we
be
own
touching.
you, if we say we own you like
Jesus
Hawaii,
Christ.
Hawaii has nothing to do with the United States. It's a possession.
Okay.
The Galapagos doesn't have anything to do with Ecuador. It's a possession. These islands are nothing but little turds hanging off around the United States of America. They could be owned by anybody. Some of them are owned by who? The Dutch. Some of them are owned by who? The UK.
I
They don't
think
have
you're not.
anything to do with us
I think you're not
other
seeing
than
the
us
bigger
owning
picture.
them. You're
Take your
trying to
time.
relate the ownership of islands with something about our genetics, and it's not going to work.
Wani, is it true or not that people were shipped in the intra-American slave trade? People were brought from islands to mainland North America. Everybody knows that.
Okay,
Denmark
check this out.
Vesey.
Okay,
Denmark Vesey
here's the
came
problem
from
with
the.
what you're
Okay,
saying. Shush. Here's the problem. Like I said earlier in the space, just because somebody stopped at an island, stopping at islands to be broken and processed to be a better slave in North America does not mean that you are now that same person. What is that? If you are, like I said earlier, if you come from West Africa and you stop in Haiti, you're not Haitian. You're not from the islands. You stopped there.
That's a slippery slope.
No, it's not. And then when you get to get to North America, the real one, not the islands hanging off of the side, when you get there, you produce people on that land. Those people become Americans.
So, Wani, what you're saying is
I'm
the
saying you don't
enslaved.
stop
Wait, wait,
places
wait.
and become that you don't stop in
Please, please, please
islands and
wait.
become
I'm trying to
Caribbean.
understand what you're
That would
saying.
mean that every time somebody went on a vacation, they would be Caribbean.
Please wait.
Okay,
I'm. s-
so when we
Are you?
go
Are
to
you?
the Caribbean
Okay.
for a vacation for 2 weeks, are we Caribbean?
It does really know what I'm saying. Why are you strawmanning what I'm saying?
I'm not.
Okay. I'm saying.
Slave
Are
ships
you saying?
dropping people off places does not
Can I
mean
ask my
those people
question?
are those ethnicities. You have to do something there to become part of that land. You don't just
Can
stop
can
there.
can I ask? Can I ask my question to
That's
you?
the African mentality. I'm over in Ireland. I'm Irish now. No.
I did not say that.
You're
I
not
did not say
Irish,
that.
and you're never going to be Irish. They have a
No.
long history of Ireland stuff over there that Africans don't have anything to do with. Now, if you want to roll the clock back 40,000 years, then you could say, hey, maybe some African was over in Ireland doing something. But for the last thousands of years, you haven't been.
That's crazy. I have multiple threads on that.
Oh, God.
But I think you're completely misunderstanding what I'm saying.
I
You
am,
asked me
because
a question.
there was
You,
no Africans coming over here to do anything but further exploitation.
if that's how you want to frame things,
Why would
I
people
was talking
sell
about the.
people and then go rescue those same
That's
people?
crazy.
What, show me where they did that.
I was going to talk about the slave insurrection of 1733 of St. John, and
Which area? What area did this happen in?
it's St. John, but it also happened in North America as well
What
because
does that have to do with Africans?
those were Africans.
Those are not Africans coming to do anything. They're Africans that are pissed that don't want to be enslaved. Why are you confused?
What are you
How is
talking
that
about?
coming to save us? They're trying to save themselves.
No, I'm talking about the. Okay, so that's what
Listen,
I was narrating. That
let me massage your brain. Shh. Check this out. Did any Africans get on a ship from Africa with the goal of saving people that were sold into slavery? Yes or no?
and I said yes, and
No,
his
you
name is.
said some people that were enslaved were over here trying to get out of slavery.
I was trying to give you the context,
Well,
and you
you're
didn't
not very
listen
good at it.
because you weren't listening.
I know why. Now, listen, what is the name of
Okay,
this individual you're
go.
speaking about? Because it's going to take you another 10
His name
years
is
to
John
say it.
Canoe. His name is John Canoe. Just look
Junk,
into
Junkin,
John Canoe.
spell it.
Yeah,
Spell it.
John like John, and Canoe
Mm-hmm.
like the little boat.
Okay.
And that's the name of a festival that's celebrated in the Caribbeans and also in South Carolina. And it's celebrated specifically because the man of this man
What does this have
ended
to
up.
do with us?
And what does it have to do with Africa? It's the Caribbean.
It's also North America. Like that's what you're missing.
Oh, that's a stretch.
How is that stretch? It's celebrated in North Carolina.
Because in my title, sir, I say United States. That's specific.
Okay, South Carolina is part of the United States, is it not?
Sure, but how again? How? Did Africa send reinforcements is plural to the United States during the transatlantic slave
I
trade?
said yes.
Who were the reinforcements?
I
I heard John Canoe. That's one dude, and I think he's from the Caribbean, right?
He's not. He's like Khan.
So let me get this straight. You saying that Africa sent one dude over here to save us all, like Rambo?
He was a chief,
He did
right?
not do that. Were not saved by him, so he didn't do a
Yeah,
good
he
job.
failed.
He
He
created
failed.
a festival. So he made a festival for himself. That's cool.
Okay, so
Yay,
it's
I
only
tried to
valid
save
if it
Black
was successful.
Americans. Let's do a
Hey,
festival.
one. You said he didn't save us. He came over here and started dancing.
What a freak.
Uh,
Hmm.
so basically, you're saying that it's not valid if it wasn't successful.
I'm going to look it up now and I'm going to be intellectually honest. If I was being super mean, I will admit that he did try to do it. Okay, we have a deal. Let me
It's
read a bit.
it's kind of more complicated than that. So most likely you probably deny it and nitpick. But for 9 months, his man basically took over the. Okay, that wasn't him. That was another group. But for 9 months, that group took over the Virgin Islands for like 9 months.
I really don't like
They
people
tried to
saying
like,
the Virgin Islands because it's like,
what
that's
should I
That ain't
not
got
call
nothing
them?
to do
us.
with us.
I
So
mean,
they saved
Denmark
Candace
Vesey.
Owens. They
Do you
saved
consider
Candace
them?
Owens. Well, then that's a reason for me to be mad right there.
Okay, do you consider Denmark Vesey to be like Black American then?
Will you stop?
That's a
Let's
misnomer.
stay focused on this guy that saved
Who
us all.
Denmark Vesey? What's a misnomer?
That's non sequitur. That's non sequitur, sir. You're trying to muddy the water. We're being very specific. Let me help you out. In order for Africa to have sent reinforcements to the United States to help during the transatlantic slave trade, it's an African territory, um, such as well, you know what? It could be a territorial kingdom.
Hmm.
I deal with a tribal kingdom. That's
Okay.
fine. Would have had to have sent a group of
Hmm.
men, armed
Hmm.
men, to the United States with intent of fighting the white supremacists. I've never read of anything like that happening.
I don't think you realize how ignorant people were of what was happening across the Atlantic to the point that I'll tell you about a few instances where
Can you?
Khan
Can
chiefs
you?
would send their children to study in America or in Europe, and those people would be enslaved and never come back. And that chief would like be thinking that, oh, my son is like studying in America or studying in Europe.
But
That's happened multiple times. It's
because they're not
documented.
smart. They're just not smart individuals. They think that
Okay.
their class is going to that they're going to send their children out and then they're not going to be perceived as uh someone to be enslaved. And they aren't going to be perceived as
Money,
someone to be enslaved.
this was in the 1700s and 1800s. Do you really think
And they
you
sent them
can?
over here in the 1700s
Yes.
thinking they were going to school. What a bunch of freaks.
Yes.
How are you going to school where?
And that's why I'm saying that you have no idea of how ignorant some people were of the conditions or
Okay,
like
well, they found
racism.
out. Just
They
like
definitely
the
did.
Moors, remember the Moors wanted to live over here for some unknown reason, and they had to go to court to say, hey, we're Moorish and we are people of the Moorish kingdom. We don't want to be treated like black Americans and subject to being enslaved. That's why they had that what is it, the 1790 something Sundry Act. Let me look it up.
Okay.
Everybody over here was subject to 1790, the Moors Sundry Act of 1790. They had to go to court. They didn't want to be perceived as black Americans, but they wanted to be over here for some reason. So
What
anybody over here brown,
what exactly do you think Moors are?
but that's what I'm saying.
No, 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 no.
Anybody over here that was brown was subject to being enslaved, including free black people that had papers.
Okay.
So why would anyone want to live over here?
I mean, they didn't know that. They were not
Tough
literate.
nuts. Tough nuts. You're a king of this is a king of Ghana that doesn't know that?
And there was no king with
What
Ghana.
king doesn't know that? I mean, all the kings are selling people into slavery over here. How do you not know that? Oh, you think your son is special because he's a king. No one values your royalty. They think you're a joke.
I think you have a very skewed
No,
view
I
of what
don't.
was happening.
No, it's reality, Dan. It's
Okay,
reality.
let me
You
just
guys are
share this.
selling people into slavery, and at the same time, you're going to send your children over to the same place with the same people that are enslaving you. What schools were these African royalty going to go to? A white school? Like what schools were they going to
It's
in
happened
the
before. I've
1700s?
okay. I've on the
Can you
jumbotron.
tell me the school?
Can you look up my jumbotron?
I
Um,
don't like your post a lot.
I mean, it's just facts. It's not like there's no opinion in it. It's just documenting people. It's a thread of people of my
Well, wait,
ethnic group
you're
being.
telling me about Moors? I already know what Moors are.
No, no, I'm just showing you a
Ugh.
thesis that was written by somebody of my ethnicity, and look at what the thesis title is. I just want you to look at it and tell me what you think about
I'm not in the mood. You tell me what it says real quick.
it. If you're not interested, there's no point. Y'all are
Dan
being
is about to derail this space. He's about to derail this space off a very serious topic, which is do FBAs owe allegiance to Africa, and did Africa send reinforcements to the U.S.?
my answer
The
was
gentleman
no.
has,
My answer was no.
with all due respect, with all due respect, the gentleman has not proven with substantial credibility that Africa sent one fucking reinforcement to the United States of America during the transatlantic slave trade. And furthermore, earlier I proved, according to Dr. Snyder, plural, in their book, that Africans were completely complicit in the slave trade. Given those facts, I think it's fair to conclude that overall, Africa did not send reinforcements to the United States of America during the transatlantic slave trade. That's my
All right.
conclusion.
I'm gonna be brief. FBAs do not owe allegiance to Africa, but if you want to give allegiance to Africa, you can. Like nobody's
Why
going to.
would we? Why would we give allegiance to Africa?
If you want to, for whatever reason,
Do you think
that's
that
your own choice.
Cambodian people should give allegiance to China?
If they want to, they can do it.
Well, why would they do that? They don't have anything to do with
I
them.
mean, maybe the descent from them. Who knows? Maybe they are Han.
Mm, well, they have their own thing going on, so why would they do it?
Yeah, but
It
people move.
seems weird.
And secondly, there was a lot of slave revolts. In a way, you could interpret some of them to be
Slavery
attempts.
boats.
Slave revolts, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
What
that's that.
about them? You could do what with them?
You could interpret them as attempts to, send reinforcement in some
So
ways.
you're saying that we should consider slave ships
That's
actually Africans trying to save us?
the worst thing I've ever
Oh
heard.
my God.
I
I
don't
have
know.
got
I don't
three
know. I
headaches.
don't know why you keep
What
strawmanning.
in the world, Dan? Seriously?
I mean, like I
Seriously?
said, you could just read about the
Oh my God.
1733 St. John
You
Rebellion.
guys are doing mental gymnastics. You should get a serious gold medal. Let me call the Olympics real quick.
Yeah, he needs at least a place.
But
The Black, what's on your mind, man?
Say, man, shout out to everybody in the space. Shout out to Warner, Professor, Mickey. Man, I done heard the craziest shit today from Africans, from the Latinos, and everybody else in between. Man, he said the slave ships was the revolt ships. Or what? Look,
that's
I
not what
was
I
in a
said.
space earlier where they said the African kings that sold the Africans wasn't related to the Africans today. Like, where do y'all learn this shit at? I just needs to know. Like, I'm very curious because did not learn none of this. And when it comes down to y'all oral history, y'all don't express none of this until y'all get on Twitter. And I see why this shit is called Twitter, or used to be called Twitter, because y'all be tweeting, just tweeting like little birds, just lying and saying shit. Whatever come to y'all head that makes sense to y'all, because it don't make sense to us in the regular world. So, like, I understand why professors say put it in the chat and post your evidence and your sources, because Lord,
Facts.
oh, I done lost a lot of brain cells today, and I smoke too much weed to try to preserve the ones that I gained. So, like, Lord Jesus, I'm gonna pray for you, Dan. I'm gonna pray to you and pray for Jesus to just give you some type of knowledge of real history, because you was more than colonized.
Unfortunately, that's what it sounds like. With no disrespect intended. We're listening to a lot of gaslighting too.
It's disrespect intended from my end, because Lord, that was disrespectful. Everything that he said. What's so
I
Yeah.
just
crazy?
want to know. I just want to know if what he came up with, because he's steady putting stuff in here. The Okay, so he went and found something on Google about Ghana, and he posted that. But before then, I'm just seeing something with a needle and thread and some flags in it. Something that he typed up. Where did he get that from? In the entry. What's so funny? Go ahead and oh no, you don't. Dan Quay, where did you get that stuff from with the needle and the thread?
Um,
What
which
is that supposed to be?
it's a
The one
thread.
with the needle and the thread and the
It's
flags.
it's yeah, it's a thread about Akans, educated Akans in Europe and America in the past centuries, like scholars. Like, what
Does
about
any of
it?
that make sense to you, Professor Allen?
No, it doesn't. And what I'm waiting on him to
I'm
say
trying
is,
to
I want
understand
to
what the
know
question
when
is.
what I want to know is, was there, and I'm not trolling, I'm dead serious. I want to hear positive scholarship to prove this, but I want to know, were there any icons that came to the American mainland to help slave, rescue, or avenge foundational black Americans, enslaved foundational black Americans during the transatlantic slave trade? Was there one?
No, not coming for that purpose specifically. No.
Okay, there you go.
Um, yeah, that's about it.
So we were basically ridden off, right? The hell
What
with
did they
us.
come for?
I don't think it's as simple. And first of all, I want to clarify something. I have ancestors who were enslaved as well. I have ancestors who came from Brazil.
Where?
I've
Where?
I just said it, from Brazil, and they came back to Africa in the 1800s. I have
We're not
ancestors.
Brazilian.
Please, can you wait? I have ancestors who were domestic slaves in the castles. I have ancestors who were slaves of
Prove it.
chiefs.
Post it, babe. Post it.
I've posted it once. I don't really
Post
want to
it.
post it because there's my last name on it, but it's a family
Uh-uh.
tree.
Write it. Just erase it. I want
I've
to see this.
I've literally sent it to you before. Like, I'm not going.
Oh, I'm tired of your
You've
stuff.
seen it before. Like, we've talked about
I
this
forgot.
before, right? But yeah, I think it's way, and you saying that every African has like 99% Ghanaian
I've
and Nigerian.
seen your. I
It's
have
not
seen.
true.
I've seen lists and lists and lists. The average one does on the West Coast.
Okay, I'm from like Ghana. Both my parents are
Mm-hmm.
Ghanaian. I'm
Mm-hmm.
66% Ghanaian, 16% Nigerian,
Mm-hmm.
10% broadly West African. I'm like
Mm-hmm.
5% European.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think part of it is Scottish and the other part of it is
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
Portuguese or
That's
something.
very weird and rare, but whatever.
It isn't because on the coast of Africa
It
there was a
is. The
lot.
Scottish people weren't over there humping on y'all.
let me ask you something right now. Have you
Look,
ever
I
heard?
know I know how did Scottish people get over to Ghana to hump on you guys into 5% of anything?
Facts.
Come on, man.
Uh, Question for the
Uh-huh.
gods. Question for
Uh-huh.
the gods.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But you could look this up right now. Just type
No.
Euro, please. Can I finish one second? Type Euro Africans, like the same way as Afro Americans. Type Euro Africans on Google
I'm
and
not
tell me what
saying that the
pops up.
white boy didn't ram a bunch of people. I didn't
Yeah,
say that.
yeah.
I
But
said
I'm saying,
there's not a whole bunch of Scottish people over there humping on on Nigerians and Ghanaians.
and I'm saying, Ghana
I
is.
know where the mixtures are. They're off of
Can
the
you?
islands.
Yeah, I think you're not listening enough to like learn something.
Possibly.
Genuinely
That's
not.
possibly true that I'm not.
So allow, because I'm actually not trolling right now. Ghana is one of the countries that was probably colonized by the most number of countries, like European countries. Sweden once owned the
You don't
colony
look like
of
you've
Gold Coast.
experienced this type of behavior, okay? That we
What do
did.
you mean?
You
What
don't look physically look like you have been through it.
what do you mean? Oh yeah, are you saying I look
What did
good?
I just say?
Are you saying I look good?
I said
You're saying I look good.
people people in Ghana do not look like they have had all these Europeans mixing in with them like people in islands off of Africa do.
Well, African DNA is way stronger than European
It
DNA.
has nothing to
And
do with
some,
strength.
hold on, and a lot of this is like very long ago, so
Now
it would be
let's
minimal
review.
amounts of DNA.
Let's review. Let's review.
Mm,
You can't do minimal amounts. If somebody rapes your ancestor in the 1800s, it's a certain percentage. The next generation, it's a lesser percentage, unless
exactly.
it continues.
Yeah.
So, when somebody says certain percentages, that lets me know when this happened.
So 5%. What about this? Because it's
It
Scottish
doesn't make
and
any sense.
Portuguese.
That's what about it. When
Uh,
did Scottish people come over there in the 1700s, hump on a bunch of Ghanaians enough to make a substantial amount of people have that admixture?
and I said, question for the
They're not
gods.
even known for
People from
going there.
people from the Great Britain. What are you talking about? J.J. Rawlins, one of our presidents, was half Scottish. You didn't know this.
I said Scottish people are not known for being all over Ghana like that.
I just gave you an example of somebody who was
You
half
give
Scottish.
unicorn arguments. You give unicorn arguments.
All right,
I
sure.
can talk about a Jewish person that owned a plantation, but do we have Jewish last names? Do we have all that admixture in us? No.
Well,
Hmm.
I think the point has been proven that in the that no reinforcements were sent. And given the fact reinforcements were not sent during that transatlantic slave trade, I can only conclude that FBAs do not owe allegiance to Africa. What did you call Africa, wanting like a mother with a Munchausen by proxy or something?
It's a mother that we
Um,
should call CPS on because she left her children to die, put them on the slave ship. Enough people were thrown off of the slave ships to change the migratory patterns of marine life.
of sharks,
Sharks
yes, because it
just
was food.
sharks just stopped going to their normal places. They said, "Oh, we'll just follow these ships because they're going to throw people off." That's
Wow,
pretty
and to
bad.
the it's awful to this day. The migratory pattern of great whites is still altered based on the bodies that were thrown out those fucking ships, man. But so we don't owe allegiance. So given this point forward, I don't want to hear anybody coming in my room or our rooms talking about how we owe allegiance. Now, is that any disrespect towards Africa? No, but we have to deal with the facts and look at the facts. And the facts are we were sold complicitly, as Dr. Snyder proved it, by Africans who served in leadership positions, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't accidental. This is leadership. Captain of the sand, captain of the, this is a leadership position to sell us. If y'all peek one more time at my picture in the Jumbotron of me in Cape Coast, you will see a big lump in my jacket. I'm up there trying to hide my camera because they were trying to charge. They charged me to get into it, and that's a whole nother thing. Why are you charging me to go to a castle where my dad's side of the family was enslaved? Why am I getting charged for that? The Smithsonian's free. Well, they saw that fancy camera around my neck and tried to charge me twice as press. You know what I'm saying? There is no allegiance. It's this is about money. That's what it was back then, and that's what it unfortunately in 2023, that's what it was about. Still about money. Go ahead.
And do they have any money?
No, but
They're
that's the
not
way it
very good
works.
at this, are they?
It's karma. You know what I'm saying? You can't expect to have good fortune when you out here selling people children and shit.
Professor, how you thought you were hiding that camera?
It worked. It worked. I just kind of hid behind people. Somebody saw it and was like, "No, no, no, he's pressed. We gotta charge him like a bigger rate." That shit pissed me off to the ninth power,
Yeah,
man.
they are filthy. They are absolutely filthy. And they won't do the white people like that come visit. They just only do black people that come visit like that. They don't do the Chinese people like that either. They bow to them. They worship the Chinese people. They let those people ride on their backs and everything.
Yeah, I saw some of that at a party. It was some Dutch. They were white boys from somewhere. They sounded Dutch, but it was blowing my mind the way they were treating them. They treated them like they were gods, you know. But then again, that's that colonial psychosis that Dr. John Henry Clark talked about, having fascinations with the slave master.
Now, I want to give a scenario to Dan to help him get oriented with what we're speaking about. So,
Come on,
if
one.
a Senegalese person is put on a slave ship and they are brought over to South Carolina, are they African or are they South Carolinian?
Um, it depends.
No, it doesn't.
I think it depends.
Why? Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, and I said it
A
depends.
person from Senegal gets on a slave ship for several weeks and is dumped off in South Carolina. What is their ethnicity?
Okay, I'll tell you what it depends on to me, right?
Oh my God, I'm getting ready to. Okay.
Do you want an answer on that? Because it's
No,
nuanced.
answer the question. She asked you a question and you're going in circles. Just answer
I'm
the direct
I'm
question.
answering it. I'm answering it.
Are they Senegalese still?
First of all,
Are they
back.
still the tribe that they were taken from?
Okay, let's say they are Wolof, not Senegalese, right?
Holy cow.
They
Yes,
would
they're
still
Wolof.
they would still be Wolof.
Okay, stop there. Say that same slave plantation owner
Hmm.
goes back over and gets some more Wolof people and says, you know what? I like this Wolof worker.
Hmm.
I'm going to go get 10 more of those suckers.
Hmm.
And this particular plantation owner does not rape anybody. He's just actually trying to get people to work for free.
Hmm.
So he's pretty decent, okay? This is the scenario I'm making up.
Hmm.
He brings some more Senegalese people, Wolof people,
Hmm.
over, and they get on the same plantation and they start to have children together.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything to them. They're just having more Wolof children.
Hmm.
Are they all Wolof people on the plantation in America?
They would undergo a form of um, ethnogenesis in a way because they would be
There's
isolated.
no
Hold
ethnogenesis if
on,
they're all.
hold,
Oh my
hold
God!
on,
Do you know what ethnogenesis is?
hold on. I'm explaining. They
Mixing a
would,
bunch of
they would under.
Wolof with Wolof is not a. Sir, you're giving me a lot of medical problems.
Can I finish what I'm saying? I mean, you're disagreeing. We can agree to disagree, but at least hear my point. They would be a different like identity because they would be cut off from Wolof people of Senegal. So they would kind
But
of
they have their culture
develop
though.
their own culture. Their culture is not going to stay intact. They are going to change some things. Um,
Slightly, I agree.
yeah, slightly, but over time it would be slightly, and over centuries it would be a lot. So that's
Okay.
my
So
personal
you
view.
heard what you just said, right?
Yeah.
That even though these people were all from the same tribe,
Mhm.
Wolof,
Mhm.
they were isolated
Yeah.
and they were cut off somewhat from what they would normally be doing. And they've developed other things. Of course, they've been enslaved, so that's other things right there.
Mhm.
So they're different,
Mhm.
all right? They don't fit in with the other Wolof people.
I mean, they could still fit in.
After 100 years, they wouldn't fit in with the other Wolof people
They
because of their experience, correct?
they could still fit in. They would just be different.
Okay. So that's not what happened with Black Americans.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. We didn't come from one little group all together.
Mhm.
We were mixed with everything that was here in the New World. Everything. Every type of person is represented in our genetics. Anybody who lived in America is represented in Black American genetics.
Mm, I don't fully agree to
What?
this.
What don't you? Who aren't we mixed with?
You don't have the same admixture of Africans as like Caribbean people, for example. Like Caribbean people have more Akan.
That's not what I said. I said everybody who lived in America, Europeans, Native Americans, Black Indians, all of those types of people show up in our genetics.
I mean that applies to white Americans as well. Like
You
if
know
if we're
what?
gonna be real, a lot
You
of
know
white
what?
Americans have like
He's muddy in the water,
th-
and
am
We
I
know
lying?
they're called passing.
No, am I lying?
The new white people that came over
But
are not
wait.
admixed like that.
Race is a construct, right? So if somebody is
Oh,
white
okay.
passing, that white.
Ellis Island people are not the first people. Ellis Islanders who did not own slaves don't have the same exposure to that. Okay.
I'm
right.
I'm
And
just
they've pretty
saying.
much
I'm
they've
just
pretty
saying.
much outpopulated they have pretty much outpopulated the Mayflower groups.
I'm just
Okay.
saying that white
So the
Americans,
point
a lot
the
of
point
them,
we're not talking about white Americans.
yeah, but I'm saying that that applies to like a lot of groups like in America. It's not unique to
What
Black Americans.
what does that have to do with the fact that we are way, way different than if we had all come from the same tribe in Africa and were left untouched
Yeah,
here?
I haven't argued against that actually.
Even those Gullah Geechee people that want to keep Gullah Geechee culture alive, they all still have admixture
Yeah. You mean with Europeans? I think some of them have
with
no admixture,
whatever
I
is
think.
going on in America,
I think some of them have zero admixture.
with whatever is going on in there's that's impossible. Somebody had to marry somebody who had admixture.
I think I've seen.
Admixture is too prevalent in this country for you to escape for hundreds of years without being exposed to somebody else who's mixed. So even if you have a grandmother that came directly from Africa, a great grandmother or great great grandmother, she had to be hooked up with somebody who wasn't pure African. It's impossible. You can't keep that up for hundreds of years in isolation. It's not they're not that isolated.
I think I've seen
They
some
had to
Gullah Geechee
marry
people with more African DNA than me, and I'm African,
Ah,
so that's what I'm saying. Maybe
they're
not a
more
hundred
African
percent
than you. Okay, you know what?
with more African DNA. Like,
How do
don't
you
change my
know the
words. Don't change
more
my words.
African DNA? How did you know? Do you did a DNA test on them?
It's DNA test, like from 23andMe percentages. Like some of them have 97, 98%. I've seen it before, and that's what I'm saying.
Okay, let me ask you this: is it all the same type of African?
No, and it's not for me
So
either.
then it's not like Africans.
Do I have the same type of African DNA in my DNA? No.
You're not a typical one. You come from two places.
What two
You're
places
very
do I come from? What are you talking about?
you said you came from, you had two different chunks. That's not typical of somebody from Ghana.
What chunks are you talking about?
I don't remember your. I don't like you like that. I don't remember what your little mixtures. Who the hell are you talking to? I don't like you.
Well, you're lying through your teeth. You like me. I know you like me. I like you too. Don't worry. It's all good. I know you chuckling right now.
What's like got to do
She
with
mutes
it?
herself to laugh. Oh, that shit's crazy. Uh, but yeah, there's okay, Afro-Brazilians who came in the 1800s, but that doesn't really
Ah, Afro
count.
Brazilians. What are we talking about? They're boring.
I don't know. He's derailing the stage. I don't want to be rude to him, but
Uh,
Dan, go ahead and land your plane, Dan, because I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
FBAs do not owe allegiance to
Plane. He's
Africans.
in a flying saucer that won't stop.
No, I'm landing. I'm landing. FBAs don't owe allegiance to Africa, but it's not true to say that Africans were complicit in selling Black
It is
Americans into.
true.
No, it isn't. It
It is.
isn't.
Hold on,
Because
Dan.
It
I
Dan,
is.
have
Dan,
I have
Dan.
ancestors who were enslaved. So how does that make sense? Okay.
Dan, let me show. Let me show you how it's done. Dan, you said it's not true. So let me get this straight, ladies and gentlemen. He said it's not true that Africans said what? What was it? What's not true, Dan?
That Africans sold Black Americans as slaves.
Well, they sold the precursor to Black Americans, right? They sold the descendants that
Proto.
would
Proto
become
Black American.
proto Black Americans. Thank you, Wani. So, according to Dr. Snyder on page 5 of Slavery in America, he says, or she says, I don't know which one wrote it. The trade not only commercialized the economy and changed everyday life of Africans, but also corrupted them. Allegedly, African kings sold wives whom which they were angry. African parents sold children whom they could not feed, and desperate Africans sold themselves. Babot told of an old son defeated his royal father's effort to sell him, first by selling his father, only to be met on his return home by a fellow tribesman who took his profits and sold him. To meet the demands of the market for more slave, traders stirred up wars among tribes. Tribal kings began to look for excuses to attack. Kidnapping turned into a business. So, given that evidence, I disagree with you. I think that at some point, I think, and this is my opinion, I think initially the uh, the transatlantic slave trade in Africa was kind of like a balling thing. You had a bunch of kings and shit showing out, showing the European that they could have power over another human being. That, according to Dr. Henry Clark, said that. I paraphrased him now, but it backfired because the Africans had no clue what they were dealing with the Europeans. They didn't know. Dr. John Henry Clark said the African invited the white man to dinner, and the African became the meal. Well, we were the target. When I say we, I mean the Bouchon or Kemetic, whatever you want to call us. We were. I'm starting to realize that we were the intentional target of the Portuguese. Why? Because Europeans knew the greatness of Africa. Wani, is it not true that everybody studied in Kemet? Didn't the
Yes.
Europeans
And they
study over
bragged
there?
about it.
They bragged about it. They wanted our greatness, but they couldn't do it themselves. So they kidnapped us and brought us to the New World, the United States of America, and let us create Kemet for them. You do know that Washington D.C. is designed after the temple at Luxor. I think somebody fact check me. Either Temple at Luxor or um, Aswan. One of them.
I don't
It's
know.
designed.
I have to
The
look it
the
up.
find out what it's called. Memphis is one of them. It's designed like almost like basically the Egyptians had a White House. Sound familiar? Like they couldn't do it themselves, so they went and got us to do it for them. That's why Benjamin Banneker is such a mystery. He's a direct descendant. That shit was running all through his veins. How do you design Washington D.C. and you never went to a school of architecture? Get the fuck out of here. You're descended from something great.
Now, Dan,
You are.
do
Go ahead.
you go against the museums? Because all the museums I've gone to, they admit to being complicit and they actually show the things that they got, the things that they sold us for.
Yeah, actually, some of these museums, I think a lot of the things that it presents is very ahistorical.
Okay.
and
So you don't believe the
and
museums that are taking us on the tours of the actual dungeons that we were held in. So
yeah,
these dungeons are fake? Is that what you're saying? They didn't hold people for slavery?
um, it's not that. It's more of
Well,
the fact.
then some Africans did hold people for slavery, correct?
It was Europeans who were living in those castles.
But Europeans can't do the things that you're saying.
Okay, let me ask you like a
How
very
do
simple question.
Europeans just jump up on the coast and start building and quarrying materials to build castles on somebody else's land?
I have manuscripts.
Good
I have
point,
I have
Wani.
manuscripts that explain
We
this.
know that the Africans built these things. It actually has
Yes, yes, it's Africans who
North
did.
African, all right, it actually has North African. It's very similar to things that I've seen in North Africa for whatever reasons. Um,
No, it's
no,
Portuguese
what?
people who did that, so maybe there's Moorish influence,
No.
like some of the first forts.
We can see what Portuguese architecture looks like. It doesn't look like that.
Okay, sure.
It
Mm.
looks very similar to things that I've seen, certain things that I've seen.
I don't think you've seen the type of Portuguese architecture I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Moorish.
Okay, post it up. I didn't see it all. I've seen Moorish
Yeah,
architecture.
there's Moorish architecture in
And then,
Portugal.
so the Cape Coast looks like Moorish architecture.
No, I'm saying
Oh
some of the forts look like
Yeah,
my
if
God.
Cape Coast is directly behind me, that what does that look like?
I think the Cape Coast Castle was built by the Dutch. I'm not fully sure.
Oh
I would
my
have to
God.
check that. And the
It was built
Elmina,
by Africans.
yes, Africans were
Think
the.
about what you're saying. Think about what you're saying.
Is this denial or cognitive dissonance?
It
I don't know
Like
what
is.
I'm
It's
witnessing.
denial.
like
So
okay, who were
let
the
me ask you this.
architects?
Let's forget about the transatlantic slave trade, right? Let's get the European boy out of there and get my descendants out of there. Let's get to the trans-Saharan slave trade. What was that all about? Who was involved in that?
I can't really speak on it because it's mostly East
Why not?
Africa. It's mostly East African
No,
history.
no, not really. It's the same, some of the same players.
Uh,
They're just selling in different areas.
okay, me personally, I know more
Mhm.
history about uh, that concerns me and my people. So that's the transatlantic slave trade. So I don't know much about the trans-Saharan slave
In
trade.
fact, while that trans-Saharan slave trade was going on, and Tipu Tip, who's very African looking, was running around selling everybody, the white boy
What's
saw that and
African
he
looking?
came over.
What does that mean?
Mhm.
Well, what does African looking mean?
What I just said, African looking.
Yeah, yeah, but what does that mean?
Mm, you figure it out. Now,
Okay.
we're going to go over here. Don't try to get coy on me. What does African look like? We look so different. Were we talking about Somalis? No. When we're talking about Somalis, I'll let you know.
All right, I'm listening.
Well, the distinction she made about Tibu Tip looking African was not a pejorative cut. It was identifying, but she was, if I may, Wani was trying to illustrate that Tibu Tip was African because the books want to portray Tibu Tip as something else. I've read that he was an Arab, and I've read that he was mulatto.
Well, just look at his picture, everybody, and you can see Tipu Tip. Okay,
Wait, are you talking
so
about
I,
me?
huh?
My picture?
No, 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 no. I
I'm
said you
so
can look up
confused.
Tipu.
Oh, okay.
I said you can, I don't know why. I said you can look up Tipu Tip's picture to see why this was confusing for him to be called an Arab slave trader. We just don't know what Arab means. See, these words like Moors and Arabs, get pictures in our heads of what these people are supposed
Mm-hmm.
to look like, but they weren't going by that. They were Arab and they could look like they were of full African descent. So we don't
Right.
know what they were judging these things by. So anyway, um, these different kingdoms were still involved with the trans-Saharan slave trade, and some of the same players were involved. They just moved it over to the west because there was some, more action going on that they needed to get in on. So yeah, these same kingdoms were involved. And let's not pretend like you weren't doing that anyway. That's why the white boy came over there because he knew there were people being sold.
Oh yeah. We don't even want to get into that. What Juan is referring to is after um um what's the guy's name who circumnavigated the globe? Oh man,
Marco Polo.
Marco Polo. No, yeah, it was before Marco Polo. I can't think. My mind just escaped. Um. Anyway, Europeans, when they found out that the world was not flat, they not Marco Polo, the Vasco da Gama. Vasco da Gama navigated Africa and sent reports back to Europe of topless women and beautiful beaches. And anyway, Europeans went exploring in Africa, and who they were looking for was a Christian king, African king named Prester John, Prestor John. Prester John was a Christian and known to give people money to help other Christians. So the Europeans went looking for Prester John, who it turns out was long dead, died hundreds of years before they got there. But they were looking for him to bail them out of one of their wars, and they met a charlatan, an African noble who claimed to be Prester John. And according to Dr. John Henry Clark, this imposter, in order to show how powerful he was, he let the European uh, travelers or the explorers, he let them have a couple of slaves. You see what I'm saying? Slavery was slightly different in Africa as opposed to European slave trade, but it still was filthy. But I'm not going to get into that. But um, but it was a little better. Let's put it that way. So, as historical canon has it, these Europeans took those two um, African enslaved people back to the Catholic Church, where they were donated to the Catholic Church, wherein Pope Innocent II, I think this is 1402, but y'all can fact check me on that, early 14, I think 1402 is a year. Pope Innocent II doomed, after witnessing these two African enslaved people, doomed the whole African world, melanated world, to servitude. Why did he do that? He did it because Europeans enslaved themselves. Check out Dr. What's the guy? Lerone Bennett. He wasn't a doctor, but look at Lerone Bennett's Shaping a Black America. He talks all about that. The Europeans enslaved each other first. The foundational Black Americans, we need to know that. Because we understand these people enslaved themselves, enslaved their own children, your views would be a little different. You know what I'm saying? And you would stop inculcating all this propaganda. Anyway, I digress. Um, Pope Innocent II, when he witnessed those two melanated slaves, he said, "Eureka! There it is." Europeans used to enslave themselves, but what would Europeans do? They would grow a beard, cut their hair, and blend in the crowd and run away from slavery. But that skin was an easy identifier in Europe. So, in essence, a dumbass wannabe king doomed the whole black world into slavery by trying to show off. I land my plane. Fuck all white. What's up?
What's up, Professor and Wani? How y'all doing tonight? Okay, okay. Um, all this talk of the slave trade, transatlantic slave trade, has just got me thinking. I'm a proud Black American. It just got me thinking that actually we're actually owed double reparations. we're owed reparations from our government, and we're owed reparations from these African countries. And you see these African people, they're so quick to say, yeah, you're African, but when you start talking about the slave trade and everything like that, it starts getting really they start getting really on their toes about really wanting to talk about it. But I was just basically just looking, and it's at some stats, and you know, I think they've kind of tried to say, a lot of the slaves that were sold into slavery were criminals and stuff like that. But I think you hit on it earlier, Wani. A lot of them were like women and children, and I'm reading here where it says pretty much like the kingdom of Dahomey uh really started raiding a lot of villages to pretty much satisfy the thirst that the Europeans had for for these slaves. they
Humans.
they were they were being economically empowered. So
Hmm.
so when you really think about it, these Africans have been wanting to be economically empowered off the backs of Black Americans and the people who, transcended into Black Americans. So like I said, I'm about to land my plane, but it just really goes back to the fact that if these people say that they're so open and they're not xenophobic, then I think maybe we should start talking about how a package from West Africa and these African countries should be added into Black American reparations if we're so much of their family, and they want to admit to us coming there, and they want to admit to everything, not just to us being, so-called related to them. Let's admit to everything. You all sold, you raided people, you disturbed people from their indigenous grounds in Africa. So yeah, I'll let my plane there.
You're absolutely right. They definitely owe and they have the resources. And we don't need to speak to Africans. Since the Europeans own all the resources, they need to give us the resources from there. Because that is, like you said, some of our lineage comes from there and our land was taken. And if they want us to be associated with them, if they want to pay for their crimes against humanity and all the things they continue to do, like coming over here, getting into our schools, talking about we're the first immigrants. Black Americans are not immigrants. Let me make it clear. Because if I take a rope and drag your ass across the border to Mexico, did you immigrate? Did you immigrate or do you need to call Interpol and the police? We didn't immigrate. We didn't
Right.
immigrate to the Americas at all. That part of our lineage did not immigrate here. So don't ever let anyone say that we're no kind of immigrant. Saying that is like saying a kidnapped victim, a trafficked victim has immigrated. Immigration is something you're willing to do. We did not do that, and that's part of our lineage that got blended with other groups here in North America. That's part of our lineage, or our people that came from that background. Yes, Dan.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to respond to what he said.
Are you going to admit that West Africans participated in the transatlantic slave trade?
Yeah, I did it.
Why do you like the knee-jerk reaction is to say no? How could you have a transatlantic slave trade for 500
I
years
didn't say no.
without yeah, you did, without knowing that that was happening? Like, it's too long and it actually has a name. It's not like random things happening
I'm
where a few
saying,
people were snatched.
okay.
This is a
Let
long,
me.
centuries long. We know the names of the people like Madame Tinubu. We know their statements. We know that Madame Tinubu said that she would rather drown all of her slaves than sell them at a discount to a Portuguese slaver. We know that her family members are now in power in Nigeria. She has a square in Nigeria. They celebrate
Tiananmen
this
Square.
woman, and there are multiple records of people who sold slaves and bragged about it. Africans had to be told to stop selling slaves because the white boy, got caught up and decided to get out of the business. after making agricultural gold in a whole first world um, continent. Um, how can anyone deny that that happened?
I'm not denying that it
Okay,
happened.
so now you're admitting that it, even after you just said the museums lied. Do you think
The
that we're retarded and
No,
we don't remember what you just
the
said?
museums definitely lie about some things. I'm not saying that they
Yeah,
lie
of
about
course.
everything.
Okay.
They
So
embellish certain things, and I
why would
don't know
they
why they do that.
embellish? Why do you think it would be beneficial for Africans to come over here and pretend like we immigrated?
What? Can you repeat that?
Why do you think it's beneficial for African professors, if you want to call them that, to come over to this country and teach people that Black Americans immigrated here?
Is that what they're
Preach.
doing?
Yes, it is.
Some of them,
Yes, it
yeah.
is. There's articles. There's an article out now. Some dimwit talking about the first immigrants. We didn't immigrate here.
I don't. You see, like now I feel like you're kind of nitpicking and taking people who are saying extreme things and applying that on me.
Nitpicking?
I don't think that's
No.
something that the majority
I'm
of Africans would say. Like that, that doesn't even make sense.
okay.
Um,
Well, you see how it could be beneficial for them to say it this way. They can say,
yeah,
"You
there's an
guys are
agenda behind
immigrants,
it.
and
I
we
agree.
didn't really do anything. You just kind of got nudged into coming over there.
Yeah.
And also, since you're now an immigrant and I'm an immigrant, we're the same status.
Mm.
We're both Africans over there. So now you don't have any kind of special status. And then guess what? The white man can say, "Yeah, you're all a bunch of Africans over there, and you don't have the right to live here. You guys are a let me put it clearly, you're a fucking menace to my group. Not only did you sell my lineage into bondage, but now you're over here trying to do other things to harm us. And I'm supposed to like you collectively. I don't. You're doing some very extremely harmful ethnocidal things. And it's because you don't have anything to preserve. We do. We have a lot of history here in America to preserve, and you don't. What kind of history does a Ghanaian or a Nigerian have that they need to preserve? You guys don't even have a notion of preservation. You've done nothing to preserve whatever your history was before colonialism. You didn't write it on a cave wall. You don't have any books about it. There's
That's not
nothing
true.
there.
That's not true.
What would, okay, tell me about it. What did you preserve? It looks like the British guy has some carvings of that you guys made.
See, when the British conquered the Ashanti people, they actually burnt the palaces. The palace had a giant library that had script. It had script that was written in Arabic because
But then
the
if that
king.
it's in Arabic,
Can I
okay.
finish?
You
Can I
see what
finish
I'm
my
saying?
sentence?
No,
He
no,
used
because you
Arabic
always point
script.
to some
Arabic
Arabic shit.
Arabic script.
What about you? What
Wani, you're
about
not listening.
you?
You're not listening. There's a
What
type.
about your belief systems? Why is it always some other
I'm
person's
waiting
stuff?
for you to like.
Okay, wait for me to have my meltdown. Why is it that when I try to find all African culture, I keep seeing Arabic stuff that you're bragging about? Timbuktu is what comes. Everybody can't go to Timbuktu. I tried to go there, and there's a whole bunch of people that wanted to mug me. I couldn't even get down the
Hmm.
road to go. It was too dangerous
Wani,
for me to even
Wani,
drive there. So,
let me just tell you
why
something.
do you boost up Arab influence things? Where is Africa?
Take your time.
Where
Take your
is
time.
it?
Take your time.
Okay, let me do this meltdown right. Where is Africa? Because you
Jesus
keep
Christ.
pointing to uh other things that's not Africa. You can't pinpoint anything that you were doing before colonists, culture wise.
I could tell
Show
you
it to me.
everything. Like I could tell you everything.
Because when the European left, that's when you should have started teaching your people something, their history, something. How do you just have nothing? You're just trying to scramble over to some white boy's education. Where is your education? You know how like Chinese people have their own education
Mm.
in their own language? They have a language that is 3,000 years old and you could read it now. Chinese people can read that. You see how they have those things?
I'm waiting for you
Where's
to land
yours?
so that I
Be-
can answer
Okay,
like your
I'm still up
questions.
in the air.
Because I have answers to all your
I'm
questions.
circling the runway.
Alright,
Check this out.
alright.
You know how other people can look at what was going on before they were colonized? You see, people in India were colonized. They changed the name from Hindustan to India. Everybody's been touched by this colonizer. But I want you to tell me what is African culture because it looks like you keep pointing to things that have been Arabized. You've been Christianized. You've had all these things, and you keep telling us to get in touch with our roots. And this root, you don't have any roots. We took our broken branches and started a whole new tree. You're not the roots of us. You don't have roots. You're a nomad. You doubled back and tried to go back to Central Africa and South Africa and East Africa. You tried to go back to your roots. You are rootless. We made a tree over here, and it doesn't have anything to do with West Africa because West Africa has no personality. It just has some buildings that were put up that look like cookie cutter buildings. You don't have any personal style. You have things that you're adopting from other people. You are a lost group, and you're trying to force us to be lost with you, and we're not doing it. Okay?
Right. And Wani, while you were saying that, I was reading Dr. Chancellor Williams' book to find more information. It's such a dense book. But he says something very interesting on page 208 of The Destruction of Black Civilization. According to Dr. Williams, the white man, quote, the white man by driving his offspring as a wedge into the black race is not only able to keep it weak by keeping it divided, he's able to maintain effective control over it without the necessity of his own presence. Isn't that interesting? William says, quote, the most murderous of the mulatto slave traders was guess who? Tibu Tip, with his slave empire headquarters on Zanzibar.
You said
So
murderous?
that's what
Oh my good. Now you got to send me that.
yeah, he said the most murderous of the mulatto slave traders was Tibu
It's
Tip.
not even mulatto, but okay, if they say so.
But that's what I'm saying. Everybody, I hear Arab, mulatto, like, and you look at his picture, you're like, no, that's you know what that is.
Maybe he was just lying. I don't know what his deal was, but he was definitely selling human beings. Now, Matt, did you want to say something?
Oh yeah. Hey Wani, good to see you. You didn't leave any meat on the bone, did you? Geez, you
I
really went
don't
into
think
it, man.
so. Uh,
Oh,
I thought I was being
I think.
nice.
Oh, okay. I think what he's. I think the Arabization is more of a cultural thing, because I've seen really dark Sudanese people call themselves Arab. I think the professor was also referring to Vasco da Gama, the Portuguese, who's tried to circumvent the globe or circumnavigate.
Right, yes.
Um, but also, I've noticed that the Africans a lot of times try to say we're Nigerian, we're Ghanaian. These countries do not exist. These are European creations. We're not Ghanaian. We're not Nigerian. We're from tribes there. And so I don't understand why they keep saying that. That's something they keep picking up from 23andMe, which is inaccurate. We're from certain tribes and we have certain similar DNA, but we're not really African, no more than the French or German. Because if you look at French history, the first king was Frankish and he was Charlemagne. Charlemagne was of Germanic ancestry. That's where the Franks came from. They came from the Germanic area. No one calls the French and the Germans the same tribe. I mean,
They are. Yeah, you're right. They are.
yeah, we
Franks
recognize,
are. Yeah.
yeah, we recognize the French and the Germans as two different distinctive groups. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that the reason why, yeah, I'm kind of going back and forth, but sorry. Um, I think that we could never get reparations from the Africans because there's so much envy. I saw this post Olympics. The Africans were really, really mad at the level of success, and so were the Caribbeans, that the Black Americans achieved. And I even saw some statements saying that Africans and Caribs should unite against America, which basically was code for Black Americans. We know what they mean. We were the leading contingent in the United States. We were wiping the floor with the entire planet. Um, and so I think that
How do they mean join
they're
forces
never.
during the Olympics?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't catch that.
How could they join forces against us during the Olympics?
Well, they wanted to. I saw that in the comments. The sentiment, they were feeling so aggrieved that we were just dominating. I think that they forget that we have a smaller population than them, and so we tend to get bored with the Olympics from time to time. We go to boxing, we go to gymnastics, we go to basketball, we go to football, we go to a bunch of different other sports. And so from time to time, the Africans and the Caribbeans will win a lot in the Olympics, and then we'll say, "Oh, okay, we've got to go over there and we've got to win again." And I think they might feel some kind of way about that. I think they feel some kind of way about us constantly beating them in everything, dominating them. We have no more Nobel Peace Prize winners. We have
Have you
more
ever?
people.
We have more gold medals than the entire continent of Africa and all the Caribbean islands.
Mhm, easily. And in this Olympics, I think we did by ourselves collectively. If you look at the women's hurdles, the women's 400, 4x4, the women's 200 meters, the women's 100 meters swimming, there was a woman named Lauren Scruggs. She's a fencer. We had a Black American gymnast, male. We had a skateboarder. We had everything.
We have medals in nearly everything, like I said yesterday, even bobsledding, Vanetta Flowers. And we've been having them in swimming and different things that we're not known for. But we do have those gold medals, and it's the array, it's the range of medals. And these other people, first of all, the Nigerians are like Chinese people and Russians. They always get caught cheating because they're cheaters. That's the way they work, and they get kicked out. So they're not gonna ever do anything in the Olympics except cheat and get caught. But the Jamaicans, they're really relegated to, first off, they have they don't have as many gold medals as us and never will. They'll never catch up to our medals. And they're not in every sport. Like the speaker said, I know who it is, but I'm not gonna say it. Um, they don't they're relegated to track and field. Somehow they've got it in their head that if they just beat us in some of these track and field events that they have somehow won. Meanwhile, we're dominating them in all these other sports.
Mhm. I mean, just if you saw the last two games in the Olympics, there were women's basketball and men's basketball, and the whole world watched us beat France on their home court. And there is a tremendous now. I won't say that applies to the Lusophones, the Lusophone blacks, the Afro Brazilians, but the Caribbeans and the Africans are extremely jealous of Black Americans. They don't want us to have anything. Okay, they don't want us to win because we win. I think they believe we win too much, and they get tired of it. They get tired of it because we make them look silly. The constant comparisons of an ethnicity to people who have entire countries is rather ridiculous. I hate when people compare Mexicans to Black Americans. We're an ethnic group. Or Indians to Black Americans. We're an ethnic group. If we were a country now, we'd be probably the equivalent of Japan or Germany, if not stronger. Much stronger.
And like I always say, I am willing to go country by country and compare cultural achievements with any country on earth. Bring it on. Bring it on, Poland. Bring it on, Hungary. Bring it on, Sweden. Our culture that we've done here in just 500 years is comparable to anyone on the planet. And these people have been around for thousands of years, some of them. And I would like to do comparisons with anybody who wants to. But what they like to do is they like to say, the white people who stole everybody's resources, let's compare the white people in all of these countries to Black Americans who are part of one country.
Hmm.
And they don't want to go country by country. We're not even a country. And I'm willing to be at a disadvantage and go country by country on achievements. I'm willing to be at a disadvantage and go country by country. But no, you're not going to compare an entire continent, because when we do this with Nigerians, they start jumping way over to Timbuktu and Egypt. Somehow they end up in Egypt. They will not compare Nigeria, which is a full-blown country with over 200 million people. They won't compare themselves with Black American culture. They would never do that. We're up against a bunch of basket weavers. We have calculated the moon landing and have 17 astronauts. No, you're not comparing nothing to us, and that includes European countries. You're not comparing anything to us. We did a lot of these accomplishments enslaved. You can't ever compete with us. Ever.
Not to mention our patents that are stolen. And I would tell people, if you have no Black American population, you have no civilization of the white population, and you're not even allowed access into this country. You have no civil rights. You have no. You probably have none of these multinational companies because they are made after civil rights. All of them came after that. You have none of these things. You have no American exceptionalism. You have no exportation of baseball, no exportation of cuisine, no American jazz. Okay? You have nothing. If we took away the entire impact of Black Americans on the United States, you'd have Canada or Romania. You'd lose World War One and World War Two decisively.
They'd have no music genres. They'd be over here trying to figure out what to do with the hokey pokey. And the classical music was not developed in America. They have to share that. And I can pinpoint where that came from. Classical music wouldn't exist if the Greco Roman Empire didn't go over and lick on Egypt to get that scale.
And this entire concept that Black Americans have no culture, look at every little African little short film they make. You got Africans wearing Michigan State shirts. You know, you got them wearing University of Texas shirts, wearing all the secondhand clothes that we throw away. So you're saying we have no culture, but you're wearing secondhand clothes that we throw away, that we don't even want, or that we wore in like the 1970s, 1980s. I mean, come on now. I mean, like we have no culture. We're not wearing anything that the Africans produce. Okay, we have our own separate style, and everybody copies us. Everybody. I mean, they've copied us for around 50 years now. Wouldn't we all say that?
Yep, very true. Housing. What's on your mind? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Housing. Hold on one second. Queen, did you want to say something? You had your hand up earlier. Queen Nene. Queen Nene,
Sorry.
going once.
It was
Hey,
something I actually forgot because I
Hey.
kept losing connection. It was some it'll come back to me. I'll raise my hand, bro. I'm sorry. I apologize about that.
No, you good, sweetheart. Go ahead, Housing.
Good evening, everyone. Yanni, Professor,
Good evening.
Nikki the God, everyone. You know, I'm a student. I've been playing hooky lately. But anyway, Professor, I want to touch on some things. First, I'm going to start with Professor. When you talk about the history, like thousands of years ago, it's so amazing how you bring it right back to right where we standing at right now. You follow me? You bring
Yeah,
it
yeah,
right
and
back to right.
thank you for identifying that. But that's the purpose of
Yeah,
history.
you
But go
you
ahead,
bring it
bro.
right back in. It's so amazing. Like I had lost contact because I had to take a call, and you was talking about Kemet and what it brought to the world, but you had brought it right back here. And I'm a firm believer that we are the direct descendants of Kemet, Black America. I fully believe that because the stuff that we achieved, and Yanni, I'm coming to you now. When you like use your vast knowledge and you break people down into little sticks. It's like it's so amazing. Like it's really amazing. Like you got this guy here that's trying to prove what Africa brung to the table, but at the end of the day, you sold us down a pipeline, Africa. You just sold us out, and we came up shining like a rose. No matter what we're going through, we still shining. Nikki the God, I like the post you said about Fat Joe. And I admire you guys, man. I get a lot of information from you guys. A lot. I'm like a student here. I land my plane.
Yeah.
I appreciate it,
I
brother.
was,
Um,
I was
go
going to
ahead, one.
say real quick. Now, I'm not going to say that we are direct descendants from Egypt. But what I am going to say is that it does pop up that we are related to people from ancient Egypt, not modern Egypt, because that's a bunch of Arabs that invaded. But we do have these connections, and I put it in the Jumbotron. We do. And it's kind of surprising that we do. And the thing that I notice is that all eyes on us. Everybody wants to come to us for something, for culture, very similar to those other people in Egypt. Everybody was going over there. So we do have some very, very interesting similarities where it's all eyes on us. The whole world revolves around our culture. We are the main mecca for people to come and get validation from. People want to show off their work. How does this sound? I've had people from Pakistan, Turkey, um, where else? Some other obscure places that you don't want to know about asking me to listen to their rap. Well, listen to this. What do you think? I'm just a random black person. I'm not, what are you telling me for? I'm not the authority of it. But they want for me to listen to it like I'm an authority just because of my background, which they're right. I am an authority, but they don't know that.
Right.
To them, I'm just a random person. But I just want to say Ghana has how many gold medals do you think Ghana has since we're related to them? And we have so much in common should show up in our sports should have
I'm
similarities with them.
I'm guessing, but I'd say one, right?
I could find out right now.
That's a
Zero.
guess.
Zero.
Wow. Wow.
Dan, are you ready to discuss why you have zero gold medals in the Olympics?
I
I'm in the mood to roast.
what? Yeah, you can roast, just roast. I don't have nothing to say.
Why do you think that is? You have a country there, correct?
Yeah, I
It's a
guess we.
full-blown country, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And you have men and women that have bodies, right?
Correct.
What happened? Why aren't you good at sports?
I guess we're not that strong. Yeah, we're not fast and stuff. Yeah. Hmm.
So, why do you think we come from you if we are all the sports legends and we crush the Olympics?
I mean, I didn't say it came from me.
Excuse me, we're badass. Why is that?
I didn't say it came from me.
You just sat
Our
up
people.
here and
At what point in time did I say
what do
that?
you think has happened to what do you think has happened over here that has caused us to have a bazillion gold medals and to dominate all kinds of things that we take an interest in? It doesn't matter what
I
it
have a
is.
theory
Go
on
ahead,
that.
Professor. Let us in on it.
Well, I think it goes back to several, well, two main factors. Number one, our admixture. We have genetics from so many different groups that it creates a higher probability of ingenious occurrence, whether athletically or intellectually. Our probability of occurring, of having a stroke of genius or stroke of brilliance on the physical side is higher. Now you match that potential with the actual developing process. So let's look at it like this. If you think of the old school film, you need a film, a good picture, and the developing fluid is life. So all of our genetic potential intertwined into our DNA strand was put up under pressure by all of the adversity that we faced in the battlegrounds of North America, and it's developed us into a hyper human. J. A. Rogers wrote from man Superman to man, right? It has turned us, for the most part, into it's helped us to access that the probabilities in our DNA strand. Those intense pressures is what I'm referring to. Hopefully that made sense and I wasn't rambling. It
It
made
made
sense
a
to me.
lot of sense, like the master soldier.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
Professor, when you say it's as Black Americans that we push each other, that we actually, because we were in the crucible at one point, we're hyper competitive against one another at a young age, and that forces the best out of each other, and we don't feel intimidated by that crucible. We rise to it. We enjoy it. We love the competition. Whereas other
Well,
groups, oh, go
I
ahead.
agree with you. I agree with you, brother. But that last part, I don't disagree with because it's not fun. But it is the way it is. You're damn near 100% correct on this. Like, um, I did a study at university on this for Congressman Steve Cohen in Memphis. Yes, sir. Educational psychology is my little thing. That's my graduate degrees in. But uh back to the point. What I noticed in the Mississippi Delta, which is used to be 99% foundational black, but now Hispanic elements moving in, is the foundational black Americans in the Mississippi Delta are performance based. That means like what you said, like competitive. Performance based motivation means I'm gonna do something because I'm gonna get something, and that's how most of us think. It's me, even me. Like I wanted them Air Jordans. Why? Because I wanted to fly through the sky and dunk that ball. I'm performance based. The other side of the railroad tracks typically has mastery based motivation. Mastery is I want straight A's because I just want them. I want to know. Which is atypical. But I'm just piggybacking off what you said, and I'm agreeing with you wholeheartedly. We are performance based. A mother is a necessity of invention. We have been turned performance based to um, well, let me not say it that way. Let me say that the environment around us has us, developed all that genetic potential into raw talent, and that a lot of people don't understand. But it's once you look at the fact that we're our gene mixture and look at the intense pressures we're put up under, you only have a couple choices, especially as a shit. I'd almost say, especially as a black male, it's like either get with the program or or just lay down and die. There are not many options. And I'm gonna end on this. I went to a PWI high school. My dad saw to it to save me and my little sister's life. Well, at this PWI, a lot of my colleagues and friends from high school are white males, and they don't. These white males are in outstate Alabama. They don't. I noticed right away from hanging out with them, they don't live in the same world that foundational Black Americans lived in. Let me elaborate on that. Um, it was less stringent. It was more attaboy, you can do it. It was an air of encouragement amongst them, both young and old. Whereas in my world, the foundational Black American world, it was like, man, nigga, you better do it. You bet. We didn't accept There was no shoulders to cry on in the hood. You know what I'm saying? Either you got with the program, or you got your ass whooped, or worse. You know what I'm saying? It's performance based. I like this discussion. Thank y'all for bringing this up. I digress.
No, you're right. We don't accept defeat.
You know, should we make a new rule? If you don't have 50 gold medals, you can't talk to us about anything?
Oh,
Well, that would be like 75% of the planet.
I like it already.
right. It's called exclusive. Exclusion is power. I like it too. On
Do you know why all of these West African countries that participate in sports are not good? They will never be as good as us. Oh, wait a minute. This is my nemesis, Kemetic Tamerica. What you doing, Kemetic? Did you come up to bother me again and expose my dirty secrets? The secrets everybody knows?
is she speaking? Or?
No,
Okay, I was making
he
sure my thing
comes
ain't
up
messing
to
up again.
bother me.
Well, to answer your question, Wani, those groups in the Caribbean and other countries uh, just simply have not been put up under the same pressures that we have. And you can get mad in the chat all you want. I got evidence to back this up. According to Dr. John Henry Clark, the I'm paraphrasing him now. My memory's good, but it's not quite photographic. According to Dr. John Henry Clark, the Black Americans were never we ended up getting benefited in the end by the harshness of our slave trade. What do I mean by that? Well, according to Dr. Clark, enslaved, melanated enslaved people in the Caribbean were offered the illusion of inclusive power. What do I mean? Well, in Jamaica and in Bahamas, they went through a lot of shit with the slave trade, of course. But number one, their slave masters were of higher nobility. We got the worst with that Georgia corporation. We got debtors, pedophiles, and um, degenerates. Not my words, words of academic canon. That's a whole nother discussion. But these these places in the Bahamas got the descendants of the Mayflower, like just a more spoiled group of people, and moreover, they didn't have the development fluid that we had. What I mean is situations weren't as harsh for them as it was for us. Life in the early 2000s, late 90s, when I was a child, as a black male walking through the streets was harsh as hell. And either you got it was it was no hand holding, there was no hugs. You know what I'm saying? It was either you get with the program or you're gonna get shot. You get with the program or you're gonna get stomped out. And the educators call that Vygotsky, environmental learning, zone of proximal development. If you're around that, if you're around an environment where you know if you act goofy, you're gonna get stomped out, it changes you. You know what I'm saying? You turn to a focused machine, if you will. But it's a function of necessity. It's not a function of pleasure, in my opinion, with Black Americans. I
I
digress.
wanted to say
You said that
something.
again.
I wanted to say
You said
something.
that again.
I didn't hear you.
Oh, because I want to take a note on it. It's called developmental what again? I think that's a pretty good. Um, I'm sorry, the doctor. He said it's called developmental something. I missed that part. You were kind of.
Development. Development. Well, I'm saying I'm using an analogy of if you can remember the old cameras, they had film. The picture was only as good as the number one, the picture that you took, the design. You know what I'm saying? It's a really deep concept. That, like God is a designer, He's the photographer. He took the picture, He designed it. Well, that's part one. Part two is the development fluid. You got to soak it in fluid to bring the picture out. So with foundational Black Americans, my analogy is our life is development fluid. We're dealing with the shit, man. We're dealing with harsh conditions, man. You either rise to it or you die. You know what I'm saying? Whereas in the a foundation in the white American world, which I've experienced firsthand, it's a whole lot of hand. I don't know about now, but in the late '90s, early 2000s, when I was a child, my white male friends used to get there was so much hand holding. I was in a car with them one day. They were driving through a rich white neighborhood, and two of them had an open bottle of Jack Daniels in the back seat, and they got pulled over by a police officer running a stop sign. And the police officer looked at them and looked at the whiskey and was like, "Okay, y'all have a nice day." Whole lot of hand holding. Whereas when I was kicking it with my brother, with the brothers in the neighborhood, the police just fucking start shooting at us. You know what I'm saying? It's just like I'm not gonna help him. I was a target in the black neighborhood, and in the white neighborhood, rich white neighborhood, they doing all kind of wrong, and the police act like they scared of them. It's a whole different development, mental fluid. And like our sister Wani said in prior spaces, that shit is backfiring on them now, because that whole privilege, white privilege is with men is associated with money, and money is running out in a massive way. Look at debt. Look at the debt clock, and that financial white privilege is drying up. Therefore, a lot of them are having to face what we've been facing for the last 20 years. We're seasoned. We know what it is. We're not scared of it. You know,
To
so
I want to
go
add
go
on to
ahead.
what you were saying about the conditions in the Caribbean. So they were saying that the conditions were pretty bad, but the facts are that they had absentee ownership. So some of them
Right.
never even saw a white man. They had overseers. Their women had 4 children, and our women had 9 children. They also
Oh,
had some
wow.
protection from the Catholic Church. They could actually complain about their conditions and say, I want to, move to another job, if you will, because they don't like the situation. They could also, um, there was easier for them to pay for their freedom, and they created racial castes and actually married. They had a different setup than we did. Uh, it was a different thing, and out of it, we can see what happened. They have their little saying, "Out of many, one people." They have music talking about one love and singing about bananas and things. This is, completely different than what Black Americans were doing and showing through our music. We were singing about strange fruit on a tree, and these people were singing about banana boats. So that just goes to show you where their minds were. They didn't have anyone chasing them around the island, hunting them down and lynching them and doing all these things. We did not have the same overseers or the same experiences, and that's why they don't get it. For them it's like, well, I didn't even see a white boy during my slavery experience. What did they do wrong? Aren't those guys just people that come over to bake in the sun? They don't get it.
Right, right, right. It's the illusion of inclusion. They thought that they were part of the Mickey Mouse Club. Whereas from day one, we were told, hey, look, you ain't in this fucking club. Fuck off. You're not in Mickey Mouse Club. And we got our cry on right away. Got it out of our system and was like, you know what? We found strength. Fuck that Mickey Mouse Club. I don't want to be part of it. Whereas they were from day one added into the Mickey Mouse Club and walked around singing the songs until 2024 hit, and the financial era is drying up, and there's no hand to hold.
Also, this notion of uh, improving the race by marrying lighter skinned people and white people, that did not work here. We had areas in Louisiana where people did that, but collectively we just simply didn't do it. In fact, we did the opposite. Light skinned people marry dark skinned people, and it's a pretty common setup, and that's why we're brown. We continue to brown each other, and we have made a statement. The way we procreate makes a statement that we want to be black, that we are black, and that we are going to have this range of colors. And that's it. We're not trying to make ourselves white like the other groups want to do that. We just collectively do not want to do that. And it shows in the numbers, and it shows in the way we generally look.
Yeah, there was a geneticist that studied Black Americans, and they say we possess a high level of what they call genetic memory, meaning that they conduct tests and things like that, and they know that you can inherit memories from your ancestors through your genetics. And I believe that we have a high level of genetic memory as an ethnic group. That's why I think we're an ethnic group, and we should like really push that home. And I think that genetic memory helps us a lot because we produce an extraordinary number of athletes, of artists, of culture changing things, of like new ways of thinking. Our comedians are extremely intelligent too. Like if you've seen our comedians, they can reach a broad range of people. And I can look at a white comedian or a Hispanic comedian and like, oh, this isn't even funny. But they can look at our comedians and they'll laugh their asses off. There's something really different about us. And I think that genetic memory is something that we should really explore as a community.
I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm going to definitely highlight that in some of the reasons that make us stand out as a people, because the professor and I are working together and independently on what it is that makes us different, because we are in fact incredibly different, because we're not
Totally.
copying belly dancer music, we're not copying Korean traditional folk music, but they are both copying us, and everybody in every country is copying our music, our different styles of music, from jazz to rock and roll to hip hop and rap. Go ahead, Dan. I just wanted to hear what Dan was going to say. What happened to my boy? Comedic. Didn't he come in here to roast me?
Yeah.
I
Mm.
Well,
can't
I
have
mean,
any fun these days.
I just
Go
wanted
ahead.
to ask
Go
you
ahead.
about what you said about
hmm The
Caribbean
gold medals.
slaves. No, no, the
hmm
Caribbean slaves.
I'd
Um,
rather talk about the gold medals you guys don't have, but go ahead.
I mean, I don't really care about it. So
Oh, sure you do. If you guys want a gold medal, you would be slam dunking that thing down our throats for the rest of time.
you do know I identify with my ethnicity way more than my nationality, right?
mm-hmm.
So Ghana, I don't really care about Ghana. I care about my people.
Of course not. You guys
Um,
say that until you get a gold medal. Go ahead.
anyways, um, yeah, Caribbean slaves had like some of the harshest conditions. Like their life expectancy was
Didn't I
very
say
bad.
that?
Yeah, but like you didn't really seem to be saying that actually now.
I said that they did have harsh conditions, but
No, harsher conditions than like in North America.
nothing can be harsher.
Their life expectancy was like
It doesn't matter. Being dead was better than what we went through. It wasn't harsher.
so you prefer the Igbo landing than like
How can it
okay.
be harsher? They don't even have any horror stories. I told you they came
What do
out of
you
there
mean?
singing about banana boats.
I mean
There is some horror stories. Yeah.
everybody deals with trauma the way they want to. If people
Okay,
want to be
well,
happy and
they
sing,
don't really
then they'll
highlight
do that.
that. They don't talk about it. So if they don't have enough
Are you
respect,
are you telling me you've never heard about all the maroon slave revolts that happened in Jamaica?
I'm not talking about that. I'm speaking about when we were being lynched, when we were being terrorized on these plantations,
Mm-hmm.
when we had these very cruel slave owners,
Mm-hmm.
what were Jamaicans doing?
And they were revolting.
They were marrying the slave owners,
They were revolting.
or wanting to.
They were revolting and dying. They were like there was some horror stories. People, there was a British man, I forgot his name. Edward Long, I think it was.
Okay,
He tried.
That
I'll
sounds right.
try to um, feel better. I know about their issues, but
Is
I still
somebody
feel
talking?
that
I'm not
us
hearing.
being bred and having 9 children and having a harsher day-to-day life, I still feel like that, and being chased all around the United States, and before it was the United States, and not even being able to be free with our papers, still living in fear, hiding on triracial isolates, being
Yeah,
lynched.
yeah, definitely. I'm not
These
diminishing
things
it.
are just, I mean, it comes out in the music. We have a lot of soul and we have a lot of expressions of the things that have happened to us in our music, and it's not in Caribbean music.
Do you know why I think that is? Because I feel
Why
like
do they
there
sing about
was.
banana boats and we're singing about being lynched?
Let me tell you my theory on that.
Go ahead.
I feel like North American slavery was very harsh mentally. It was very mentally, it was mental
What
torture.
about the physical part of being shackled uh
That happens to all enslaved people, but
and 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 being threatened with castration and being castrated?
I'm talking about the particularity of it. Those things are like common to all enslaved people in the Americas. But I'm saying what was particularly harsh about North American slavery was the mental part of it. To me, that's how I see it. You could disagree if you want
And
to.
if they have a great deal of absentee ownership, how could it be as harsh as people that have the slave owner right there, raping and beating all the time?
I mean, that's why they had like maroon maroon groups, people who would run away from slavery. They tried to term it as a mental illness. They called it drapetomania.
Yes, we discuss
Right,
crazy white people terms.
right.
It's just
So
like the
so
hundred
that
and
was common.
some genders and the cisgender and the birthing bodies. They like to say a lot of things. The
Right,
chest feeding. Basically, they just make things up.
right. But just imagine this. They tried to term slaves trying to run away from slavery and being maroons as being some kind of mental illness. Like they were really believing this at some point in time. But yeah, I don't even know what I was saying anymore. But yeah, I just think that's interesting. I think I'm gonna drop by the way because I'm kind of being antagonized and stuff. So
I didn't hear the rest of what you were saying. You're
I
kind of
said
being what?
antagonized.
No, you're fine.
That's what you say when you miss me.
You're fine.
Right, right.
Just tell me off. Tell me about
Nah.
the hardships of the Caribbean. I'm not saying that they didn't have, like I said, they say it was very harsh conditions, right?
hmm
But,
But it compared to us,
I don't know why you guys kind of like comparing conditions.
well, we
It's not.
compare because they compare.
I
Okay.
don't. I don't
we
think
com-
that's useful.
Okay.
without comparison contrast, all humanity would be dead. That's a functionality given to all humans to differentiate between doing something stupid and doing something helpful.
Yeah, but
You
but but
you
but you
cannot.
you're not only comparing though. You're trying to make
We're not,
one. You're
hold
you're
on.
trying to create
But
like
wait a minute.
a
Hold on. Here's
hierarchy.
what happened. No, 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 no. Here's what happened. We weren't even talking about the topic. We were not
Not
we
at
were not
all.
comparing with Caribbeans. They came over here and got in our business, right? And told us we were all the same. And we're trying to show you that we're not. That's what we're doing. And if we have to compare, there's no other way to show you we're not the same unless we compare things. So when you say, "How come you guys are focused on slavery, and how come you guys are you have all this animosity with the white man?" I'm asking you, what happened with your experience that you don't have animosity? Are you completely broken? Did you not have an experience with this man? What happened with you? Because they're the ones that don't understand. We have to teach them about racism. They're the ones with the problem. Okay? We're trying to get them up to speed. They don't know that the white man is the bad guy. They're trying to marry that guy. They think that guy is cool. So that's why we're confused. That's why we're comparing. We don't think that the white boy is cool. We remember this person's behavior.
You don't think that maybe.
We've sang about this person's behavior. We have
Hold on. Let me
generational
ask you a
trauma
question.
from this
Let me
person's behavior. We hid from this person as free people of color. We hid from the European.
let me ask you this question. Are you
Yes.
ethnocentric or race centric? Do you identify with? Do you believe race is like
What
a real
race are
thing?
black? What race are Black Americans?
Not human.
What race are Black Americans?
Human.
What race are Chinese people?
Human.
What race are Chinese people?
Human.
Mm-hmm. What race
Mhm.
are Nigerians?
Uh, Let me point this out. I asked you this question. You're asking me the question? Like, I don't get it.
Don't get what?
Like, I'm asking you if you believe in race. Like, do you identify with like a black race, or you identify with your ethnicity
There's
more?
no. The black race is Black Americans.
Okay, so
It
ethnicity.
doesn't have anything. Africans are not the same race as Black Americans.
What?
What race are Chinese people?
Like, you might as well say that the
Hello,
dinosaurs. Like,
hello.
what are you
What
saying?
race? What race are Chinese people?
I'm not doing this. I want to
Why
talk
not?
about like Afro-descended people.
Who
You're
can
talking to
answer
me
this
about
question?
Chinese people.
Who can answer this question? What race are people from Europe? What race is that?
White European.
Okay. What race are Chinese people?
Asian.
Okay.
Since when is it like? Since when are continents like races? Like, what are you guys talking about?
She's establishing a logical point of view. Be
Now,
patient.
what race are Black Americans? How
Um,
can we be the same race as Africans?
we can't. It's too much admixture. It's too much. It's just too much.
You
You
see,
know.
black is not the equivalent to African. You guys
What
are
what is what
African.
is what is race? What is
African,
race? Please define race
African
for me.
race. It's basically the
Hmm.
your perceptions, like perceptions in locations of the last 1,000 years or so.
And that
Locations and
means nothing.
perceptions. That's true. It is. You're correct. It doesn't mean anything, but it means something um socially, but it doesn't really mean anything. So, generally speaking, people that live in Australia that are native Australians,
Hmm.
what race are they?
I'm trying to understand something right now. Are you equating race with ethnicity?
No, race is different. What race are people in Australia?
They're
Australian natives.
they're human.
What a shock. Anything else?
They're human. That's their race.
Mm. Well,
Now, if you want to talk about
that's
race as a social construct, there would be Australoid. If you want to talk about race as a social construct, I would be
Australoids.
I,
Okay.
I would be
Australoid.
I would be a Negroid or a Negro or whatever.
Negroid. Okay.
That's the
And
term.
the
Yeah,
white people would be
Cauca-
Caucasoid or
exactly.
Caucasian or
We
whatever.
all know this. We all know this.
Okay. So, and
So
black Americans are what?
they would be I
Mm-hmm.
think they call it a transitional something like race or
Mm-hmm.
something.
They're black. We
Basically,
call ourselves black. Black ethnicity and black race.
no,
You
it would
guys
it would
just took over our name.
it would be what?
You guys just hijacked our terminologies.
My ethnic group was called Black before Black Americans
Yeah.
existed. What are you talking about?
You guys are called African.
Do you want me to show you right now?
African, Asian, European.
Sure. And I'm saying, do you want me to show you
Africans,
manuscripts from the
Africoid.
1600s?
Hmm.
You want me to?
We're talking about the technical terms.
Yeah. And I'm
You're
saying,
called what?
do you want me to show you manuscripts
Mm,
from the 1600s of my ethnic
sure.
group being called the Blacks?
Is this something you guys wrote or something that the white boy wrote?
It's both.
Sure, show us things that you guys wrote and that the white boy wrote in the 1600s.
I actually don't feel
Are
like
we
they are.
really going? Are we really going to? Uh, because you can't say yellow race. Okay, you can't say black is not a race, white is not a race, because that means yellow and red are races. That doesn't make any sense. Let's stay consistent. You were right when you were saying Australoid. That's better. They keep changing it because guess what? White people are dumb. They're trying to group people up that don't belong grouped together. We've seen some of the stupid groupings that they did in the last go round. It didn't match up. They had people in the wrong group.
Huh. Interesting and very true. The stressors weren't present in that environment because in that environment, the children, the scholars, academics are just there's an expectation of excellence. I expect you to be excellent because you represent me, right? Isn't that the way it goes? Whereas in our neighborhoods, it's priorities are totally topsy turvy. My priority when I lived in the hoods of Birmingham was to stay alive. That's a sad priority for a child, but it was real.
Let me read some of the races. It says Caucasian. That's Northern Europeans, Southern Europeans, Eastern Europeans, Middle Eastern, and North Africa. Now they have recently boned out. They said they're not, you know, they're no longer Caucasian. And in fact, they're not Caucasian. So I don't know why they're under there. They're not Caucasian. They didn't come from the Caucasus. They came out of Africa and just went to North Africa. Uh, You see what I'm saying? Like, how are they from the Caucasus? They literally left East and South Africa and went to North Africa.
Do you
There's
want me to
no
explain?
Caucasus. There's no Caucasus involved in them.
Do you want me to explain why they are called Caucasian?
Oh,
Because
yeah, go
because
ahead.
I read about it recently.
Yeah,
So
go ahead and tell us about it.
I'm in Germany, right? So Blumenbach is the one who kind of did that, who's at the origin of this. And the reason he did that is that he thought that white people were the original, basically people of the world, like the,
Okay, hold it.
and he
I
believed.
don't want to do. I don't care what he believes. We already know that's not
I'm
true.
I'm telling you, I'm telling you why it's not that.
Uh,
Okay,
Stop.
sure. Do your
Let me do the next group. Mongoloid. That includes East Asians,
thing. You're funny.
Southeast Asians, Central Asians, Tibetans, Sherpas, and such, and North Asian, Indigenous Siberians, and Indigenous Arctic people. They fall under this Mongoloid category. And it seems okay. I'm going along with this so far. Now let's get to the Negroid. That's West African, East African, and some of these are not really right. Okay? Even geneticists don't want to put Khoisan in this group. They say they don't match. So this Negroid category is sketchy. I'm going to jump down to Australoid just for fun. That includes Polynesians and Melanesians and Aboriginals. Amerindian, those are actually Mongoloid people, but they're somehow getting a new group just for fun. A Native North American, Native South American, and Mesoamerican. Um, yeah, I think they've been over here long enough. They've adapted and morphed into something slightly different. I don't know. I think they're still Mongolian, but okay. I'm not going to stay up late at night worrying about it. Pacific Islanders. Now, see, here they had the Polynesians up here with the Australoids, but they also have the Polynesians with Pacific Islanders. They're all over. They don't even know which one's able. This is one list, and they can't figure out Australoid, and they want to branch off and make a new race for Pacific Islanders. Now, let's get back up here. Africa is really uh, giving them fits, basically. These people are not all one race. They're just not. It doesn't make any sense. And we certainly aren't a part of any of these. We're part of all of these. To be perfectly honest, we're part of every group that I just named: European, Australoid, Polynesian, Amerindian. We're part of all of these groups because Pacific Islanders covers Polynesians, Micronesians, and Melanesians. We belong under this mixed race group that they have at the bottom. Go ahead, Mikhail.
Greetings, great, beautiful family.
Hey.
What's up, Mikhail?
Just
Love it.
listening, learning, and growing. And thank you for the opportunity to speak. And actually, I'm not sure if this Sister Queen would rather go ahead of me, and then I'll address our friend, Mr. Dan.
Okay. I just wanted to add another overlap. They have Russian up here with the Caucasians. No, 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 no. Siberia is too much involved in Russia. You see? So some of their lineage belongs in this Caucasian area, but some of their lineage belongs in the Mongolian area, in the Mongoloid area. It's very tricky out here. So see, race is very tricky, Dan, and it's not there's some overlapping going on. Go ahead, Queen.
I'm sorry. I remember what I wanted to ask. Um, when you said the Caucasians had enslaved themselves, when was that? Because I was basically told, um, like we basically civilized them, because
Oh,
they were in caves, they didn't know how to wash themselves, they just nasty. Well, they
oh,
still nasty, but how did they get from that to enslaving themselves? That's
um, they did it a couple of times. Um, one of the instances was with Slavic people. Um, and the Slavic people basically started migrating after the main groups, and this put them at a disadvantage because now they're migrating to the places that the other people went already, and there's people already there with established communities, and they're looking at them like, what do you think you're going to get? We've already gotten our places here. So they kind of were in a very tricky position, and they didn't have anything established, and they were taken advantage of. Of course, you know that this type of behavior seems to happen when people start migrating and they don't have any established lands or powers. It's happened with the so called gypsy people. They were enslaved from the 1300s, and they were actually freed around the same time Black Americans were freed. They were, in fact, chattel enslaved. Um, and they never recovered from that. As you can see, they have never recovered. They don't have the development that we have. They like to compare us to Jewish people after they've dumped a bunch of money on Jewish people, and Jewish people were not enslaved for half a millennia. So we are actually more in common with gypsies, Roma people, in terms of being enslaved and being withheld from development and being oppressed. And we can see that um, most gypsy people they have issues, we'll say. White people have done a lot of things to each other. They've put each other in serfdom. They've taken everybody's property. I guess they practiced on Europe first before they branched out during the age of exploration and began to oppress everybody on every speck of land.
And it's funny as you say that too, because I'm still trying to figure out how they're like still in power. Cause like they don't, their lifespan is like super short. Like they don't, I don't, I, they're not able to reproduce like we are. Like I don't know how to formulate my words. Oh goodness. I'm still trying to figure out how they're still in power. Well, it's kind of common sense. Basically, they've been feeding off of other people, but and for years, for centuries, that's why they've been killing us off because they know, like we are not the minority, we're the majority, But they put this out there like we are the ones that basically the minority, when how do you say it's more black people in the world than them because their lifespan is like super super short, and that's why they've coming out with all these vaccines. Well, they've been doing that for years, but especially with this COVID vaccine, like it's like every other month somebody is dropping dead, and this food and all that. But I'm sorry, I'm like going another direction, but yeah, can you elaborate on how can they come from the mountains, move into other people's territory, and they're still oppressing other people?
Um, yeah, they came from the several regions, and a lot of places they went, they didn't necessarily come in with guns blazing, so to speak. A lot of these types of migrations, they came in and um, took up farming where previous cultures had farmed, um, joined in with other groups, you know. Everything wasn't violent, but like most people going to a new place, they have a certain attitude, and then when they build their numbers up, they start to take over. They start to Romanize and Hellenize and do things to spread out, um, like the Ottoman Empire and the Greco Roman Empire, Persians, Mongol empires. They start to spread out. They might come in very meek, and then they get predatory. All of these situations are different in how that they migrated to other places. Some places didn't have a lot of population. Some places had a population that they blended in with. Some places they joined in. Some of them brought things like wheeled carts and other technology to the other areas didn't have. When we're speaking about Neolithic times. It just depends. There's been a lot of waves of migrations from people. They came from the steppe regions and Caucasus regions, and they moved south. And they met with people that were already in Southern Europe and parts of Europe. People were already there. It wasn't like vacant space. So when you think about the Iberians, they didn't come from the Caucasus. They were there. They have a different development, a different migration than these other people, than the people from the steppes, and then the people from the Caucasus. So they are different.
Okay, thank you so much. I really needed that breakdown. It's probably um, a dumb question, but
No, it's not. We'll have a
you
better.
guys were talking about other things, and I just needed to understand, like how that how they came
No,
from that.
we're gonna have a room just about that because it's kind of confusing for me to try to explain that in the middle of the sentence. But we're gonna have another room speaking about the different migration patterns of people.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Mikhail.
Yes, thank you, great sister. Mr. Dan, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, sir. What about you?
Excellent, excellent. So you seem a little confused about different issues related to source, ethnicity, geography, anthropology, history. What's what's the root of your confusion, sir?
Mm, I'm not confused about these things. I'm trying to understand her point of view. I know what mine is, but I'm interested in hearing what people's points of views are to understand how they think and to know why they think
Mm,
that way, what their sources are, so that I could
I
examine
see.
them and maybe grow from it.
Okay. What is your point of view? What is your modus operandum
On what exactly?
on understanding our point of view and being confused regarding what our sister Wani has articulated to you?
I basically didn't understand how she viewed race, if she believed in race, because I know a lot of people are trying to abolish race in this moment and trying to stand on ethnicity, and some people still believe in race. And I was basically trying to understand if she did, like what her point of view was on that.
I see. And what do you believe, sir?
Um, I think race is a social construct. I think there's some realities like if you're a certain ethnicity, it's going to predict some maybe genetic diseases that you are more likely to have, um, and things of that nature. Maybe how big your nose is, how curly your hair is, but then that's about it.
Where are you from, sir?
I'm a con.
Okay. And would you concede that we, the foundational Black American freedmen, are of a different mutation, ethnicity?
Yeah, um, I'm a con, and you're Black American.
Right. And do you understand the difference?
I have my point of view on that. I don't know what yours is.
What is the difference?
Um, I think I, as an account person, have different admixtures. I'm from a certain region of the world. My people mixed with certain people, and your people mixed with certain people, and it's not the same admixtures, basically.
So, in essence, you're saying the difference is just genetic?
It's genetic, it's cultural to some extent, but then there's also overlap. It may not be big or significant, but there is.
Okay. Well, it's more
Is there
than,
anything you're disagreeing with so far, by the way?
well, you're scratching the surface, but you're not quite uh, going into the labyrinth of why we're different and uh, and why our future and trajectory will be different.
Um, for one, I would say that I'm not even in the Americas, and I think being in America is like a big part of being Black American. So I would agree with what you're saying.
Right. For example, we are a people of the future. Do you know what that means?
Tell me. I've heard you talk about this. I've heard you being on some spaces and say,
Hmm. But as well, we are a people of space time and a people who are constantly reincarnating ourselves. Do you know what that means?
that you have ancestral knowledge or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. We, there you go. You're a smart guy.
I mean,
So,
I respect that. I'm just confused as to whether you're saying that
Do you
somehow
feel that
my
your people are the same, brother?
what is the same? Like what do you mean?
Like progressively trying to evolve, like Brother McCall was explaining, instead of trying to compare and to stay in one place. Are you continuing to evolve? I'm going to land. I'm done.
I think there's some people who are willing to, and some people are not willing to. I think
But
there's some
Dan,
of that in
you're
every ethnic group.
okay, Dan, but you're talking about your specific, you're using unicorn arguments, number one, for our argument about genetics. I already looked at Nigerian and Ghanaian DNA profiles. And like I said, it's like 99.8% West African and 98% of it being from Ghana. Like that's a typical person from Ghana's background. 98%, and the rest of it's always Nigerian.
What does it mean? Because let me ask you this. Ghana was
I don't
created
kn-
in
I don't
1957.
know. I don't know what
Let me
that means. It
let me
means you're all from the same area and you don't have the variety of things
I'm
going on.
I'm giving you an example of what I'm saying.
Okay. I know that
Akan,
these countries are new.
yeah, Akan people are in
Mm-hmm.
both Ivory Coast and
Mm-hmm.
Ghana, and some of them are in Togo. So
Okay.
if there's a DNA test and somebody is 100% Akan, what country is it going to pin the person down to?
Well, that it's a better way. What you're doing and saying you're a con is a smarter way to deal with this
And
conversation.
that's what I
But
that's what
when
I
you
do.
look at a Black American's DNA breakdown, it looks crazy. Okay,
And
compared
I'm saying
to
that some
the
Africans
very
have as
neat,
crazy, like some Africans have
but not
DNA
most.
profile.
But not most.
A lot of them do.
No, most of them. It's in the 90s of the country that they're in West Africa. So if they're from Nigeria, it's going to be 99.9, 98%.
I've seen Igbo people with like Native American DNA and Central Asian DNA.
I am really trying to, like, hey, Native Americans were running around the west coast of Africa, apparently.
And that's not what I said.
I give up.
That's not
That's
what I
what you
said.
implied.
No, that's not what I implied at all. I'm just saying
Yeah, you implied
the
that.
Why are
DNA
you,
test,
how did that happen? Just tell us how that occurred.
it could be Asian, to be
No,
honest.
You said Native American. You said Africans are on the continent running around with Native American DNA. Explain to us what happened.
And I'm
Are you
saying
speaking about some Liberian people?
no, I said Igbo. Like my okay,
Okay.
my rationale for this happening is that
Mm-hmm.
it's probably like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Filipino people or something somehow.
You said Native American.
Yes,
Filipino
but
comes up as Austro. They
yes,
come
they
up as
cluster.
Austronesian.
They actually cluster in some DNA tests as indigenous peoples of the
mm,
Americas.
What?
I'm not lying.
Someone help me with this.
I got it. I got it. Okay, Mr.
I
Mr.
not
Dan,
go.
Mr. Dan.
Yes, sir.
So you do know that the people, including yourself in that region, carry something called the ghost DNA, right?
Um, yeah,
Good. And so you do know that the people in your region who carry the ghost DNA are the prototypical mix between the Cro-Magnon and the Denisovan, as well as the Neanderthal, right?
that's not accurate. There was no Neanderthals in Africa. There was no Denisovans in Africa as well.
So the point we're making is your people are the missing link.
Oh, aren't you descended from my people?
No, actually, I'm not.
Okay, so you're indigenous to the Americas.
I am.
So why are you in Africa?
I'm taking your resources like your people are in the U.S. taking ours. How does that
Uh,
feel?
it sounds like a fair trade to me.
How does that feel?
Yeah, it sounds like a fair trade to me. That's what I said.
Yeah, I'm free. We're freeing you from the Chinese and from the Indians and the Arabs.
Yeah,
How does that sound?
yeah, get your shit.
So now you know you are the missing link
All right.
between the Cro-Magnon, the Denisovan, and the Neanderthals. And this is why your people carry some of the haplogroup of the so-called Mongoloid, or the people
Mm,
who are, or the people who are correctly called the Khas, as in Kaskian, or as in Kaskian.
I have no idea what you're referring to, actually.
I
For
know.
once. Caspian?
Yeah. Have you
Can you
have you ever
elaborate on
heard of
that?
the Caspian Sea?
Oh, Caspian. Yeah, okay. Um,
Okay.
that
Cas.
would be like
And
the
there
Yamnaya people, like Indo-Europeans. That doesn't
there
sound
you
right.
go. You've been listening to me. That's good.
I actually haven't. I'm just learning.
Yeah, but that's good. You're a good student. So the ones we
That's
call
over for
white
the missing link.
today, yeah, but the ones we call white today are actually uh, their first descriptive. We'll call the Kaz, Kaz, Kaski,
Oh, Khazar.
Kazakh,
Okay, okay,
Khazar. There you go. Exactly.
okay.
Right.
Makes sense.
That was the grouping.
All
There
right,
you go.
all right.
But they came from your people.
Hmm. I don't
You
know
see?
about that, but okay.
Okay. One day we'll unpack it for you. But I just wanted to give you that piece of information.
Okay. Um, would you be interested in looking at the my pin tweet and telling me what you think about it?
Looking at your WhatsApp,
My pinned tweet.
your pin. Okay, I'll look at it.
All right. Just want to know what you think about it, since you said you're not descended from Africans.
Okay, so what's your point?
I just want to know what you think about it. Do you think those people or descendants of those people still exist in America? And do you feel like they are part of your ethnic group? Or do you
Okay,
feel like,
all right, let me give you something like that.
hmm
Everything has a source. Everything has an origin story. The planets, the galaxies, the universe, the multiverse. Everything has a source. Right? And I am of those who know from the study of stone tool technology that the oldest reported recorded stone tool technology is in the Horn of Africa. I know that for a fact. Period. I know also that the North American continent has been populated based on the study of stone tool technology for millions of years. That's a fact. So what's the goal of your question?
I'm not denying any of what you just said. I actually agree with everything you just said. I'm just saying, since you're saying that you have no Africans in your lineage, would you say, like probably in the last 500 years, right? Would you say that descendants of people in that thread that are made are not part of your ethnic group? That's my question.
Okay, so what I'm saying to you is there was no such place called Africa, sir.
It doesn't matter. People
It
in my
does matter.
thread,
It does
okay,
matter.
forget about the word Africa, right?
There,
The
there, there,
people,
but there were haplogroups. There were
right,
haplogroups.
right, E1B1A, people of the haplogroup E1B1A, people who
No,
identify,
it begins with A0. That's the
yeah,
oldest haplogroup.
okay, yeah, pygmies of Cameroon have that.
Well, also, I mean,
Albert Perry has
in
that too
North
as well.
America,
Yeah, sure.
mainly in North America, and in the Congo, a very small group in the Congo. Right.
Yeah, so I guess they were the same people.
So what's your point?
I'm just asking. The people in that thread, those Akan people who ended up coming to America some way, somehow, do you consider the descendants as being part of your ethnic group? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. So what ethnicity would you ascribe to these people?
Mm.
Because some of these people
We
fought in like
okay.
all the wars
We
in like North America.
we okay. Let me explain to you, sir. Most of what you consider the continent, most of those people were agrarian people, hunter gatherers,
Are you
and
talking
maybe
about Africa?
fishers. Yes, they
No,
weren't complex civilization
that's not true.
builders,
That's not true.
sir. And it still exists. 90% of the continent, and I'm here right now, are still the same.
Do you know when black eyed peas were domesticated?
What?
Black eyed peas. Do you know when they were
Sir,
domesticated?
your phone has a lot of static in it. I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Oh, does it?
Okay. I said
All right,
black
but the
eyed
point,
Wait.
but the
peas.
point I'm making to you, sir, is 70 to 80, possibly 90% of the continent were populated with hunter gatherers, fishers, and agrarian people. You didn't have a continent of complex civilization builders. It just wasn't the case. The first recorded evidence of complex civilization on the continent were from the Assyrians that birthed the people we call the Anu, Kush, Kemet, and Keftui. And that was approximately 30 to 40,000 years ago, sir.
Can you hear me better?
I can hear you better. Right.
All right. I was saying black eyed peas. As a black American, I'm sure you know
Oh
what that
my
is, right?
God.
Right?
I can do it too. Want to hear me do it?
Wait, what?
Peanuts.
Yeah,
You've heard of peanuts, right?
yeah.
Where are they
I'm not
from?
denying that peanuts came
Where are
from
we? Where are
America.
they from?
They're from America. Pineapple is from America. Cocoa is
And
from America. Cassava is from America.
tomatoes
Tomatoes from America.
that you put in your jollof rice that the French gave you
Yeah,
are from where?
America.
And
I'm not.
so we don't
Look,
want to talk about black eyed peas anymore, do we?
I actually do.
Why are you using black eyed peas to cling on and attach?
I'm not attaching
What are
myself to
you
anything.
doing?
Wani, give me a second. I'm saying black eyed peas were domesticated in West Africa about 10, I think 12,000 years ago, if I'm correct.
Hold on a
Hunter
minute.
gatherers do not
I got to
know
do something real
and
quick.
have not domesticated any plants. You
I'm
need
getting
you
brain
need you need
damage.
to
This has
have
nothing to do with the
you
topic.
need you need to have a sophisticated civilization to some extent to be able to domesticate plants. We have a species of African rice as well, sorghum, millet.
Sir,
That is
do you
We
know,
have
or
garbage.
do
different
They
you,
had to
or
things.
do you,
import rice because it was so nasty.
I mean,
do you know,
sure, that's
do you know
okay.
the difference between an agrarian society and a complex civilization society? Do you know the difference?
Yeah, civilization implies that it has to be a city. There's much of West Africa that hasn't been
Okay, how
excavated.
old did you say you were? You said 10, 12,000 years old? No, they were domesticated in West Africa 3,000 BC.
You would need to post a source on that. But it's not the only plant. That's just the point. There's yam, there's ackee, um, there's a lot. Tamarind. Arabs used to think that it came from India, so they called it tamarind, as
What
in
are you?
date of
What are
India.
you? What are you
But it
trying to
was
prove,
domesticated in Africa.
sir? Calm yourself. What are you trying to prove with saying plants were in Africa?
Um, my point is, you can't
Mhm.
domesticate a plant if you're a hunter gatherer.
Are you denying being hunter gatherers?
I'm saying that it wasn't the majority, like he was saying. That's all.
Wani, Wani,
Especially for
Wani,
You
the
guys were.
Wani,
region that I'm from.
Wani,
You guys are in disarray. If you really want to know, but go ahead.
Wani.
Go ahead,
Did
Mikhail.
you not, Wani, Queen Sister, did you not hear me say that there were hunter gatherers, agrarian,
Yes, I
as
heard
well
you.
as fisher communities?
I heard you.
And then, okay. And there's a difference between a complex civilization and those. Sir, in your region, the first complex civilization that came into existence was the Nok civilization. Are you familiar with them?
I'm familiar with Nok. Are you familiar with the Kintampo
O-
complex?
Okay. Where did the Nok come from, sir?
Not Nigeria.
No. Where did they come from, sir?
What do you mean where they come from?
Okay. You speak English, right?
No, but what do you mean? Like expound. That's what I
Okay.
mean.
Where did they come from?
The people. Where were they, or
The
where did they come
civilization.
from?
Where
I
did the
don't know.
civilization come from?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would
Are
like
you
to.
familiar with? Okay. Are you familiar with a civilization called Yam or Ham or Cam?
Are you talking about Kemet?
No, Yam or
Yam,
Cam.
as in
Right.
the Canaanite sea god Yam,
No, okay, sir. These people came from the Sudan area. The area we would call South Sudan, or on the
and
cusp
they
of
were called
South and
Yam.
North. Yes, YM, but it's really Cam. And those are the people.
How is it spelled?
Those are the
Sorry.
people that populated, that moved west and brought civilization to that area, which was primarily hunter gatherer and agrarian. So that was your first civilization.
Okay.
Did you know that?
How would you know about that Chem civilization?
Because I am your God and your master. That's how I know.
Oh, yes, Massa.
There you go. I know everything.
Like, I would actually like to learn something from this. Like,
I just taught you
what
something.
is yeah, what is that civilization? Like,
Google.
what's the
Just
spelling?
just Google. Where this is the information age. So just Google. Just Google. I've given you the keys. Just Google the
Okay.
Kingdom of Yam. The
Can I?
Kingdom of Yam.
Sure. Can I ask you
And,
Now,
this?
FYI, during the transatlantic slavery,
Mm-hmm.
your people, it was requested by the Albinoid to sell those people into the transatlantic slave trade, North America. Did you know that?
Oh, so um, does that count for the Caribbeans as well? Because most of my people were shipped there to the Caribbeans.
Lord, can you post this information?
Wait, what do you mean? Like that's
Because
a
you
very
guys don't have
known
any
fact.
good records.
That's a very known fact.
No,
Dan, Dan,
you
Dan,
specifically.
Dan, Dan, what's your objective?
He's time
To
wasting.
I
to
He's
have
link
wasting
no
to
time. They
link
do
objective.
that.
this in New York.
Yes,
But
like you have
They
listen,
do
like
this in
you.
New York. We don't play
wait.
with them like this.
I wanted to.
Yeah,
Wait.
I'm
I
not
wanted.
even Pan Africanist like
Calm
that.
down. I wanted to add on to the Nok civilization because that's like a bright spot in Nigeria of civilization in a sea of not civilized societies. And the accepted theory is that these people came from the Nile Valley or North Africa. I didn't study it, but I generally know what what they say. I didn't study it. I just could see that they came from somewhere else. And that area has been in disarray, and that's why they're so easy to conquer. Um, they just didn't catch on. It just never got as developed as East Africa. It never got as developed as places like in Egypt. It just didn't get that developed. And it's never going to be now because you've just been conquered over and over again. And I don't know why you keep thinking that you have this culture that we need to connect to when you never even got the culture off the ground to begin with. That's why when I ask you, what is your culture? And you point me to something that's Arabized, you point me to Timbuktu, or you point me to something that has an Arab influence. And I'm asking, what is your expression? What is your expression without being Arabized and Christianized and colonized? What is it? I'd like to see it. I'd like to meet it.
Mm. I spoke about Arabic script, not anything Arabized. And everybody
That
knows that the Arabic
Arabic
script,
script is not Arabized. Okay,
hold
I
on.
give up right now.
The Arabic script is actually influenced by, or it was created from the Phoenician script, which is
Okay.
the same as the Roman alphabet, the Latin alphabet
What
that
does
we're
that
using
have to
right
do
now.
with West African culture?
And I'm saying that what color do you think the Phoenicians were?
Okay, Dan, I can
Oh,
answer
I'm
that
doing
question.
colors.
Okay, sure.
You're lost. Dan, stop it. First of all, sir, there was no such thing as a Phoenician. Phoenician implies purple and red. And you know what that means?
Very dark.
No, it means the Eritrean Sea, the Red Sea, the Dye, as well as a place today that's known as Crete or Minoan. And they had a particular shell, a purple shell, that they used to create dye. And those people were called the Keftui. And those are the people who migrated to the Gulf of Mexico thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. And those are the copper toned people, many of them which you're talking to now. So there's no such thing as a Phoenician. That's Roman bullshit.
I don't think that discounts the fact that Phoenicians invented that script.
What does
Look,
that have to do with? Yeah,
the script that you're speaking of
Hmm.
is a proto. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I hear.
Proto-lineal one script, and
No,
it's
that's
not
that's Greek.
Phoenician.
That's
No, no,
Greek.
no, 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 no. No, Greek Macedonia superseded that script, sir. Your timelines and your geography is off.
Lineal, Lineal A and Lineal B were both
I said proto. I said proto.
okay.
You have to listen. Listen to your teacher. Listen to your master. And stop listening to what the white man is telling you.
I
That's your
don't listen to
problem.
no white man. I
That's your
don't listen
problem.
to white man.
Your curriculum is Western propagandized.
Who
And
told you?
you people look for love in all the wrong places. You are here in these spaces to get enlightenment.
I never speak to no white people, so
It's in
I
your
guess
curriculum. It's
yeah.
in the way you process.
I
They
don't
can't
read
see
white
it.
people.
Well, Dan,
I think
as
he's
far as I'm
referencing
concerned,
like where the like the text that you're reading.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
don't
he
read
mean.
from white people,
Well, where are you getting your information from? That's what he's
from
saying.
black scholars, from oral history.
you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm tempted to kick Dan off the stage because I've been
Please
listening to
do.
him
Please do.
for
I've
about an
been
hour.
waiting.
For about an hour, and I'm just absolutely sure that he's an op because he's not addressing
Thank
the issue.
God.
I
And
said you owe no allegiance to Africa. It was flat and
all right,
simple. I don't know what the issue is.
I removed him. Go ahead, Queen.
I'm sorry. No, it just, I'm sorry, brother. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you, but it just seems like you're talking in circles. You're being like, whenever like the professor and I forgot what the lady's name, but the elder lady, I forgot what her name is. But whenever they drop knowledge, it's like you are not, it's like you're like, oh no, that's not what it is. Oh no, that's, you're not absorbing it. It's like you're being combative, if that makes, I don't know if I'm using the correct
Right.
verbiage, but you're not, it's like
No,
you're
you're
like
you're
not
just fine.
it seemed like you were a troll, kind of. No disrespect to you, but I don't know. It just seemed like you are not trying to have a conversation, but rather than like you're being objective and you're like you're being combative, basically.
Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, you're exactly right. And I let him stay up here for upwards of an hour as a teaching tool. I wanted to show y'all how certain people are sent to the space, and I sat here and just listened to him. And I bet money that he's been sent here to disrupt this space. Our brother Tariq kind of talked about that a couple months ago. How there are people sent to spaces to disrupt the intellectual growth of the space. It's not what Tariq said, but that's what I said. But that's kind of what Tariq implied. He was sent here to disrupt, in my opinion, sent here to disrupt our learning. Because he tactically he would like the sister just said, like Queen just said, he would absorb a point and then talk in circles, not provide any scholarship. I called him out about scholarship. It's just, we need to be careful with that and not entertain it. I entertain him because some people on stage wanted to play with him, want to play with their food and stuff, and I got it. But moreover, I wanted y'all to see how people can come up and try to just disrupt the whole learning process. I learned a lot, and I kind of for a moment forgot what I learned because he kept talking in circles, and it's my opinion that that was intentional. So let's just beware of that. Who else wanted to come up? Anybody
Oh
else?
yeah, I just made peace to the chat, peace professor on the spot, Queen, everybody, Macau. Um, I just wanted to answer it. Do FBAs owe allegiance to Africa? No, we don't. No, we don't. I feel like they owe allegiance to us, if anything. And did Africa send reinforcements? Not that I know of, not from my research. And as far as the other dude is concerned, man, that's just, it's a vampire technique. They're draining your energy. They're just draining and they're trying to learn you. That's all that is. Like, they do that shit all day. No action whatsoever, just talking. Peace.
Real talk, and we need to be aware of that because that can disrupt the learning process. Anybody else want to speak?
Yeah, I'll just build on what you're saying, great brother. They they're like little monkeys, and a monkey has the intelligence of a 3-year old. And in many cases, when you say something, they hear the exact opposite, unless they're truthful, honest, enlightened, humble, and are there to learn. Um, I think for us, there's a lot of people, that's coming to our spaces, a space like yours and our sister Wani, to get enlightened, to learn and hear the gods educate. And some from the continent, their arrogance, which is the arrogance they learn from the albinoid, are in our spaces to prove that we aren't the gods that they heard about. And in this case, with the gentleman, and in many cases, I'm noticing also that many of them, they're adopting my tone of speaking, the relaxed, the calm, the slow walking, slow talking tone, which is good, because they're generally very impulsive and high strung, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what they're not able to adapt is essentially the knowledge, the respect, and the bandwidth that we've acquired from talking. And I've heard you say this, brother professor, for communicating with each other for thousands and thousands and thousands of hours. This is the Harvard, the Yale of the planet. This app right here, you see. So when they come into our spaces, in most cases, if they run up on a Wani, Wani's crafty. She's cunning, but she's also very smart. And she can go from 0 to 60 within a snap. And they're not used to that. You understand? So it's good for those who are new to the app to witness you, oracles, uh, in performance and education mode, because you can't find this anywhere on the planet but where we're sitting right now. So this is a good exercise, and I'm appreciative to be in the presence of the masters. So I just wanted to put that out there. Another thing I want to point out, I think when I talk, the professor goes to sleep, falls asleep.
No.
No, well, not necessarily. The Dan was putting me to sleep. um, uh, with his circular, the spell he was casting, but I listen to Mikhail, but Mikhail, I just a lot of stuff you say, what I'm saying, enlightens me. Like I've been meaning to ask you, where can I get books on the Keftui and like some of the stuff I think you know some stuff because you're actually there. Like so, dude, one day I gotta pick your brain and find out more like non canonized material about Atlantis. So now a lot of times when I'm quiet, I'm listening, man. But the dude Dan was putting me to sleep.
No,
It was a circular spell.
no,
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 I'm
no.
wide awake. I am wide awake, and I still didn't get an answer to my question because, like I said, Chinese people have a way of thinking and they pass that down to their children. And even if they become westernized or they move over here, they still have that base identity and culture.
Yep.
and it's not Arabized. And of course, they have influences, but I'm trying to find this in West Africa. You see, like a way of teaching, uh, like your style. All I'm seeing is everybody around you's style. I don't see you, and you're trying to tell us to hook on to your roots, and you don't have any roots. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. You don't have any roots. You are, in fact, a nomad that left East Africa and South Africa.
Could I respond to that respectfully?
Hmm.
West Africans, a lot of them have tonal languages. A lot of them use music to convey stories. So oral history, griots, and all of that, right? We have something called talking drums. So drums that have certain tones that if you have a trained ear, you would actually hear words. In Jamaica, during slave revolts or when Maroons would go into the hills and mountains to join the Taino people, they would use these drums to resonate them against the hills. To me, that's technology, that's culture as well. I value that. It may not be written symbols or whatever, but I think that's highly, like, you need to be highly intelligent to invent this kind of technology. And I have a pretty high esteem of myself and my culture. So there's nothing that you could really
So
say
you
to
want
like
us to
diminish me in any
embrace,
way. So
you
I
want
just
us to
wanted to say that.
embrace the talking drums? That's the roots that you want us to embrace?
I'm starting to get
Wait.
sleepy again.
I've never told Black Americans to embrace
Well,
African roots or
well,
anything like that. I've never
Burna
said
Boy
that on
did.
any
Burna
space.
Boy did, and a
I mean,
whole
that's
lot of
Burna
people
Boy.
have.
I'm no Burna Boy. I'm
Hmm.
Quay.
And a whole lot of people have said this. So we want to know what they are. See, they put the spotlight on themselves. They brought it up. They said we had no culture and that we need to embrace
I
their
would
culture. And when they said, "What is it?"
I
And they,
always dispute and debunk people when they say that Black Americans have no culture. No
okay,
people have no culture because culture is a way of life. Everybody has a way of life.
okay, but they said we didn't have one and that they did. And when we said, "What
They are
is it?"
ignorant. They're ignorant.
Well,
I don't have
we never
anything.
got an answer. We never got an answer to that.
That they're ignorant, and that's it.
Well, Dan, she's saying give her an answer. Stop talking in circles. Give her an answer.
Okay, what's the exact question so
He
that I
said talking
answer it?
drums. So drums is the
Hmm.
culture.
It's part of the culture.
Why did you guys not think to record things? Because even the Khoisan, which are
We did record
told
things.
to be, you know, hunter gatherers, and they're thought of not as highly as other Africans because they maintain their traditional behaviors.
Hmm.
They even recorded things in caves so we can see what they were doing and art expressions and development. Why do
We
we see so? I mean, like, why are you using colonialism to explain away the lack of recording things so that we can know what you were doing and what you were about prior to colonists coming in?
we did record things. I'm just expressing to you the different modes of
But you said
recording.
it was in Arabic.
No, I said Arabic script. So African languages can be written in Arabic script. That's called Ajami. It's Ajami script when it's an African language that uses the Arabic symbols, but it's
Okay.
still an African language. And I'm saying that the British destroyed these libraries. They liked doing that, right?
Okay.
But what they were not able to do is to stop that culture of representing symbols on our houses and on our clothes. So we have Adinkra symbols, we have gold weights, so basically brass artifacts that represented like whole sentences, arithmetical operations and functions and things of that nature.
But you
Okay.
don't,
So
do
that's
you
how we
teach
did
that?
things.
Getting sleepy
Yeah. Do
again.
you teach that? I mean, because it's like you seem to be void of a curriculum or any kind of African way of life to teach people. It's always just let's do what they're doing in the West. Let's just make a
Are you talking about
copycat.
me like specifically or like
West Africa in general, they aspire to either run away to the West or they have a Western curriculum mindset, a religious leaning.
yeah, I think that's just um a result of being colonized and I'm against that.
So
So
they've
I'm
been
just
broken
fighting
and they
against.
can't get up.
Well,
Because how is being colonized worse than being enslaved?
I mean, people were enslaved on the continent. That's something people also forget.
Yeah, you're enslaving each other now.
Not in Ghana. You tell me about
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me look it up.
Oh, go ahead.
So, so Dan,
Yes, sir.
okay, you do know that Black Americans, with regard to the science of sound or the interdimensionality of sound, are the most sophisticated creators on the planet. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, you've contributed.
No, 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 no. No contributed.
Yeah, yeah. You see how he talking? Get him out of here, man. He doesn't care.
Relax, relax, relax,
You're doing
relax,
some. You were
relax,
doing something.
relax, relax. Relax. No, we are the sound wizards of the planet. We control the sound waves, the harmonics of the planet. We hear music with our heart, and then, of course, we process it in our minds. For example, do you know the difference between a triad and a six note chord music?
No, sir, I'm not into music like that.
Okay.
Educate
But
me.
yes, music is a form of atomism, a form of quantum, what we would call quantum dimension of listening. Music is light, pure light. Your family or your tribesmen or the people on the continent that don't have a mastery of the creation of light or harmonics or the rich language that resonates with the sound waves of the universe. Why is that? If we learn from you, why don't you have it? Why is it not exemplified?
I didn't say you learned it from me.
Where did it come from? If we came from Africa, then you would have it. Where did it come from?
Okay. If you're genuinely asking this question, I could answer it. You got the best of everything. You got
How? How?
you
Okay,
got a
but how?
little. Hold on.
How?
You got a little bit of knowledge from maybe my tribe, a little bit of knowledge from other tribes, a little bit of knowledge from
Okay, sir,
Native
sir.
Americans,
No, no, no,
a
no,
little bit of knowledge from
no. A
Europeans.
3-year-old child, a 3-year-old Black American child,
Hmm.
right, would have that. Michael Jackson, at the age of 3, was moving and vibrating to the sound of his washing machine. That didn't come from Africa. It didn't come from the albinoid or the mongoloid. That's genetic memory. That's primordial memory.
I
You
mean,
understand?
it's.
That's
I think
black.
I,
That
I
when we
think
say
it's.
black, that's black, and that's from a place that you can't put your hands on it. It doesn't exist in Africa. It doesn't exist in Asia. It doesn't exist anywhere on the planet but within us. And the world knows that.
Yeah, I think it's genetically or scientifically proven, at least that black kids in general, my
He has no evidence. I'm not gonna listen to that. Eclipse, what's on
What?
your mind?
How you doing, FBA family?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Hey, I'm listening to everything, and I hear y'all dropping the knowledge. And my African brother here just not getting it. Um, it's like you already have one of your own African brothers over there telling y'all fled from your homeland. Why y'all ain't staying fight to fix it up and bring it up to date? Y'all still slaughtering each other over there while we trying to stay on code over here fighting our own battles that we've been fighting for 500 years. And we getting closer and closer together, but as long as y'all over here trying to thwart our progress, it's like, we gonna continue to stay on code, but we're not gonna allow y'all to constantly trying to knock us off our square, and my brothers and sisters on here trying to give you the game, let you know what you got going on, and y'all have nothing going on because y'all been fleeing from your homeland to everywhere else around the world. You see, and I want you to understand this, brother. Nobody is trying to pick on you. The thing is, we trying to figure out why are in our spaces trying to pump up your culture, whatever it is, because ain't nobody trying to implement your culture around the world. Everybody trying to implement the FBA culture, the hip hop, the dress, the slang, the whole look of the FBA family. You see, it's like you're not understanding it or something, brother. But I'm gonna land my plane here. God bless and peace to you all.
Professor, may I say something?
Go ahead.
I've been hearing the brother Malik talking. I've been hearing Yanni talk to this guy. And I've been around, this is not a joke. This is real. I've been around the world one time, but I spoke to everybody twice. And I know when I hear things that they full of shit. Excuse my language, everyone. And this guy's just like, because Yanni, he still didn't answer your question. He still never answered your question.
He's on a mission, and he's very successful at what he's doing. I hope y'all listening. He's taking absorbing the. I say he's a professional at this. He's absorbing the topic, which is very powerful, and regurgitating the topic he wants to talk about, and spinning it around in a circle, not providing evidence.
And
Yeah,
Brother Malik, he wasn't ready for nothing you were saying. He wasn't ready. Like you saying, his timelines was off. I land my plane.
appreciate it, brother.
The whole continent, the whole continent's timeline is us. That's the problem.
Let's see. Don't got my glasses on. I think that's Black Ninja, and then we'll go to Highland. Go ahead, Black Ninja. Is Black Ninja speaking?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
What's on your mind?
I mean, I just tuned in like about a couple minutes ago, and it's like, it's never this negative speech about hunkies and all of that. Hunkies, they took country music, colonized it, profited from it, and Negroes don't have nothing to say about it. But when the Shabuzi guy come up, you got all this shit to say about the man just because the man got Nigerian roots, and I find that sick.
We didn't have anything to say. Hold up. We had a whole lot to say about rock and roll being stolen and country music being stolen. The only reason we didn't say a lot about some of them is because we didn't know about some of them. We were brainwashed to not even know that we were the creators of these things. We say something all the time.
Agreed.
Where have you been? And no, a goddamn African has nothing to do with country music. They don't have anything to do with music or country. So what do they have to do with it? That's like a Chinese person playing country music. What the hell do they have to do with it? They didn't live in the country and they have nothing to do with those instruments. Adios.
Huh,
Any other
sure.
questions? Any
Absolutely
other
nothing.
questions?
Talk your talk.
White people make the money from it.
Talk your
I
talk.
don't know. No, white people make the money from what? The people who play the music are supposed to make the money if they have a decent agent. What are we talking about?
I find it sickening that you bring these African motherfuckers up here and you talk down on them. You talk down on them like,
I did not bring him anywhere. He waltzed up in here on his own and he can leave when he wants.
And no
and
one,
I'm
you
not
make
holding him here.
no one was
I don't have
talking
any
down to him.
shackles. I don't have any shackles on
Yeah,
his
he was
ass.
talking his own bullshit, and
Yeah, they
I'm
was
glad
really
if
patient with
somebody
him. They spent an
if they
hour
didn't
with
let
him
me
on the
Highland
phone.
I
Homes
have
Association
no
didn't let me have a
shackles.
mic. I was gonna roast his ass on open fire. Like it's
where's
shit is
this
time.
smoke for the hunky? You ain't
Who
got no
got
smoke for the
Oh
hunky.
yeah, you ain't been around
Hey,
me. I got
brother,
plenty of
Man, I'm from
smoke.
the south, man. I was
they
about to really get
They
on his
get
ass, but it's
blown
all
out of
right.
here all the
This is
time.
brother,
That's
they
why I don't
coming
educated
on
come
on
our
up in
space.
here.
platform. You ain't
Perfected
going on their
Professor
platform.
knows is educated on space.
We blast them all the time. We just fire blasted an Australian man. He had to leave in shame. What's next? What's next? You don't know us that well. You just came up in here. What's next? Who else didn't we get in? We got in those Chinese people's asses for trying to keep us out of Harvard. What's next? Whose ass didn't I get in? You ain't seen my timeline. There's nobody who was missed on
Tell
this
them.
planet.
Tell them.
What's next? Who you talking to? You're not talking to me. You must be talking to somebody else.
It's sickening. You don't bring these white
Take
motherfuckers
your
in.
little
You don't.
echo ass thing off of here. Stop recording,
You
dumbass.
don't bring these traffickers.
Motherfucker, I'm gonna kick your little echoey ass the hell up off of here.
That's the energy we need because homeboy was putting us to sleep.
Put me totally to sleep.
Facts.
Well, this is a problem. When you speak intelligently, then you're indicted for speaking down to them. But when you ignore their condescension, then that's considered an appropriate response. You understand? And that's their problem. It's a wrap. We're going to educate them, or they're going to get out of our space. That's the bottom line.
I agree. Anybody else? Well, ladies and gentlemen, with respect to the topic, do FBAs owe allegiance to Africa? Nope. Um, and did Africa send reinforcements to the U.S. during the chattel slavery? No, no, and no. Um, we had a lesson today in the space of operatives coming to a space. It's a very powerful topic, um, and kind of damaging to the diaspora. But I mean, it's the truth, so I don't mind it. But we learned that when you're talking about something important, operatives are sent to destroy the space. In my opinion, I think it's a high probability that Dan is a very skilled op, and he could be on the payroll. You know what I'm saying? I'm a teacher of logic. I love logic. It's what my life is evolved around, logic, and I sat while I could stay awake and listen to his logic. It was deep. Actually, he was playing with some very powerful logic and trying to disassemble, and confuse the space. That wasn't no amateur shit that was coming out of Dan's mouth. He was absorbing stuff, refusing to answer questions. That was some of that, that stuff that Andrew Bustamante of the CIA was talking about. So let's be careful who we entertain. Another thing I noticed, he was antagonistic just enough to get to spark a fight with several of the panelists. Um, You know what I'm saying? I could be wrong, but that seemed like some professional stuff right there. Meanwhile, we're not talking about the topic. Meanwhile, last time I dozed off, I woke back up and we were talking about something that totally unrelated, which is a no-no. Um, Other than that, I enjoyed the space. And any last words, Wani or Nikki?
Good night.
I enjoyed y'all.